Welcome to the sanctuary of the night. Now that the day has folded its wings and the noise of the world has retreated into the distance, there is nothing left for you to do but simply be. You have arrived at the edge of sleep, a soft and welcoming horizon where the air is still and the light is dim. Allow your eyes to close, feeling the gentle weight of your eyelids as they shut out the external world, turning your gaze inward to a place of velvet darkness. This is your time. There are no demands here, no schedules to keep, no urgency to hold on to. There is only the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest, mirroring the tides of a calm, midnight ocean. As you settle deeper into the comfort of your bed, imagine that your body's becoming heavy, sinking pleasantly into the mattress as if it were a cloud designed specifically to hold you. Let the tension unravel from your shoulders, unspooling like a loose thread until it simply falls away. Let your jaw loosen, let your hands rest open and empty. You're safe here. You're protected by the quiet walls of your room and the vast, benevolent silence of the universe outside. We're about to embark on a journey together. Not a journey of effort or movement, but a journey of the mind, a drifting voyage through the wonders of the natural world. We will float from one marvel to the next, like a leaf carried gently down a slow-moving river. There is no need to memorize anything we explore tonight. These words are merely textures for your mind to touch, colors for your dreams to paint with. If you find yourself drifting away from my voice and into the deeper realms of slumber, let yourself go. That is the destination. But for now, as you lie in this stillness, visualize a soft, warm light surrounding you, a cocoon of relaxation that separates you from yesterday and tomorrow. In this present moment, breathing slowly and deeply, you are perfectly poised to explore the quiet secrets of the earth, waiting for you to discover them in the hush of the night. Let your mind wander first to the image of an ancient, sprawling forest. Picture the towering trees, their bark rough and textured with the history of centuries, their canopies creating a stained glass ceiling of green against the sky. While these giants seem solitary in their standing like silent sentinels in the mist, beneath the soil lies a secret as profound as it is invisible. If you could sink your awareness down into the earth, past the leaf litter and the damp moss, you would discover that the forest floor is not a barrier, but a bridge. Down here, in the cool, dark embrace of the soil, the trees are holding hands. Scientists and dreamers alike have come to understand that underneath every forest lies a complex living network, often called the Wood Wide Web. It is a vast subterranean tapestry woven from tiny fungal threads known as mycelium. These microscopic filaments act as a biological internet, connecting the root systems of trees to one another, regardless of their species. Through this hidden highway, a mother tree heavy with sunlight and sugar can send nourishment to saplings growing in the shade, feeding them until they're tall enough to reach the light themselves. Imagine the comfort of that connection. Even in the stillness of the deep woods, nothing is truly alone. Signals of distress or abundance pulse quietly through the earth, a slow, chemical language of care and cooperation. When you walk through a forest, you're walking atop a bustling, silent city of exchange, where the old support the young and the strong support the struggling. It is a reminder that connection is the fundamental law of nature, woven into the very ground we rest upon. Visualize those roots now, tangled in a loving embrace deep in the dark, anchoring the world in place, holding everything steady so that you may rest without worry. From the damp, rich scent of the forest floor, our senses drift upward as the sky above begins to darken with heavy slate-grey clouds. The air grows thick and still, charged with a quiet anticipation. You know this feeling, the pause before the storm, the moment the world holds its breath. And then the first drop falls. It strikes a dry stone with a soft tap, then another strokes the dusty earth. Suddenly a distinct earthy perfume rises into the air, a scent that feels ancient and universally soothing. This is the smell of rain. This aroma has a name, petrichor. It is not merely the smell of water, for water itself has no scent. Rather, it is the chemistry of the earth waking up. When the land has been dry, plants secrete natural oils that settle into the soil and rocks, waiting. When the rain arrives, these oils mix with a compound called geosmin, produced by bacteria in the dirt. As the raindrops hit the ground, they trap tiny bubbles of air containing these oils and particles, which then burst upward, releasing that fresh, musky aerosol into the breeze. Visualize yourself standing under the shelter of a wide porch, watching a summer shower quench the thirsty ground. The air cools instantly, and that scent, petrichor, fills your lungs, grounding you, triggering a primal sense of relief. It is a signal to every living thing that life-giving water has arrived. The dust is settled, the heat is broken. It is nature's way of sighing with relief, a heavy, relaxed exhalation that invites you to do the same. Breathe in that imaginary scent now, cool and crisp, washing away the mental dust of your day, leaving your mind clear, damp and refreshed, just like the earth after the storm has passed. As the rain in our mind's eye continues to fall, it flows into streams, into rivers, and finally carries us out to the vast open ocean. The sun has set completely now, and we are floating in the velvet darkness of the sea. But looking down into the water, the darkness is not absolute. Beneath the surface there is a magical, flickering light, mimicking the starry sky above. We have found ourselves drifting through a bloom of bioluminescent plankton, tiny organisms that hold the secret of cold fire. Picture the water as a canvas of deep indigo. With every movement of the waves, or with the gentle stroke of a hand through the water, the ocean ignites with a neon blue glow. This is not the harsh light of electricity, but a soft chemical reaction within the plankton themselves, a defense mechanism that has transformed into a display of ethereal beauty. It looks like liquid starlight, swirling and dancing in the wake of the currents. Imagine you are in a small boat, gliding silently over this glowing miracle. As the hull cuts through the water, it leaves a trail of sparkling blue fire behind you, a temporary path of light that slowly fades back into the dark. It is a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, nature has the capacity to create its own light. The ocean is breathing with luminescence, a silent, glowing pulse that matches the slow rhythm of your sleep. Watch the blue light swirl in your mind, hypnotic and calm, spiraling slowly into the deep, taking your thoughts down with them into a place of total tranquility. The blue glow of the ocean fades, and the temperature around us begins to drop, not uncomfortably, but into a crisp, pure cold. The landscape shifts from water to a forest of pine, but the green is gone, replaced by a pristine, heavy white. Snow is falling. But it is not just the visual beauty of the snow we're here to experience. It is the sound, or rather, the lack of it. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to go mute when a heavy snow falls? There is a profound blanketed silence that descends, unlike any other quiet on Earth. This silence is not accidental. Freshly fallen snow is composed of ice crystals that are loosely arranged, filled with tiny pockets of air. This structure makes the snow incredibly porous, acting like a premium acoustic foam that covers the landscape. When sound waves travel through the air, they are trapped and absorbed by the snowflakes rather than bouncing off hard surfaces. The sharp edges of the world are softened, both visually and acoustically. The roar of a distant road, the rustle of animals, the hum of the city, all of it is dampened, muffled under a thick comforter of white. Visualize yourself walking through this winter wonderland. The air is still and cold, biting gently at your cheeks, making you feel alive and cozy in your heavy coat. Your footsteps make a soft, satisfying crunch, the only sound in the universe. It is a silence that presses against your ears, a heavy, peaceful quiet that demands nothing from you. It isolates you in a protective bubble of winter peace. Let this silence wrap around you now, absorbing any lingering thoughts or worries, burying them under 6 inches of soft, sparkling snow, leaving only a white, pristine stillness in your mind. From the cold, white silence, we drift toward the warmth of summer. The snow melts away, revealing rich, dark soil that gives rise to tall green stalks. We find ourselves standing at the edge of a vast field in the height of July. Before us stands a legion of sunflowers, their golden faces bright and eager. But these flowers are not static. They are engaged in a slow-motion dance with the celestial fire above. This phenomenon is known as heliotropism, a word that feels as warm on the tongue as the sun feels on the skin. In the early morning, young sunflowers face east, waiting for the sunrise. As the sun climbs the sky, the flowers turn their heads, tracking the light with precise adoration, moving slowly from east to west as the day progresses. It is a mechanism driven by the uneven growth of their stems, one side elongating faster than the other to pivot the flower head. At night, when the sun vanishes, they reset, turning back to the east in the dark, waiting patiently for the return of the warmth. Picture this sea of yellow, thousands of flower heads turning in unison, a silent, synchronized worship of the light. It is a reminder of nature's circadian rhythm, the internal clock that governs all life, including yours. Just as the sunflower knows when to be active and when to reset, your body knows that now is the time to turn away from the light and embrace the restorative dark. Imagine the warmth of that sun fading now, the sunflowers bowing their heads in the twilight, settling into stillness, just as you're settling into the pillows, the cycle of the day complete. The golden field fades into the twilight, and we slip back into the cool embrace of the ocean, drifting deeper this time past the waves, past the light, into the mysterious blue suspension of the open sea. Here, we encounter a creature that defies the very rules of existence, a tiny translucent bell pulsing in the current. It is the Turritopsis dohrnii, often known as the immortal jellyfish. In a world where every living thing has a beginning and an end, this small drifter has found a loophole. When this jellyfish faces physical damage, starvation, or old age, it does not die in the traditional sense. Instead, it slowly sinks to the ocean floor and folds in on itself. It reabsorbs its tentacles and transforms its cells, reversing its biological clock. It reverts back to its earlier stage of life, becoming a polyp once more. From this polyp, identical jellyfish bud and release, starting the life cycle all over again. It is as if a butterfly could turn back into a caterpillar, endlessly cycling through time. Visualize this transparent creature, pulsing rhythmically. Expand, contract, expand, contract. It is a living heartbeat of the ocean. It floats free of the linear march of time, living in a perpetual loop of renewal. As you focus on its slow, hypnotic pulsation, imagine your own body renewing itself as you sleep. Sleep is your way of reverting, of repairing, of starting fresh. Drift with the immortal jellyfish in the dark, weightless water, letting go of the concept of time, floating in an eternal now where there is no aging, only resting and beginning again. From the depths of the ocean, our spirit rises, shooting upward through the water, breaking the surface and climbing higher and higher until we are floating in the crisp, thin air of the upper atmosphere near the roof of the world. We are hovering above the polar circle, where the night is long and the stars are diamond hard. Suddenly the sky begins to unravel. Ribbons of emerald green, violet and pale pink unfurl across the darkness, shimmering and twisting like curtains caught in a slow cosmic breeze. This is the aurora borealis. These lights are the result of a cosmic conversation between the sun and the earth. Charged particles from the sun travel across the vast vacuum of space on the solar wind. When they reach our planet, they are guided by magnetic field lines toward the poles, where they collide with gases in our atmosphere. The oxygen glows green and red, the nitrogen glows blue and purple, It is a violent collision transforming into a silent ballet of light. Imagine lying on your back in the snow, looking up at this celestial display. The lights are not static. They ripple and fold, dancing across the hemisphere in great silent arcs. It is a visual lullaby on a planetary scale. The sheer magnitude of the sight puts everything into perspective. Your worries are microscopic beneath this majestic, glowing sky. Watch the green ribbons undulate slowly, hypnotic and smooth, washing over the stars, washing over your mind, painting your dreams with the colours of the universe's own magnetism. We drift down from the high atmosphere, passing through the crust of the earth, sinking deep into the mantle. Here, in the crushing dark, under immense heat and pressure, the earth is forging something permanent. We are witnessing the birth of a diamond. It begins as pure carbon, the same element that makes up the graphite in a pencil or the soot in a fireplace. But here, buried roughly 100 miles beneath the surface, the weight of the world presses down with unimaginable force. Over billions of years, a span of time the human mind can barely comprehend, this pressure forces the carbon atoms to bond in a unique, rigid crystal lattice. It is a process of intense transformation in the dark. These gems wait in the deep earth, sleeping in the rock until deep volcanic eruptions carry them closer to the surface. It is a testament to the idea that beauty and strength are often formed under pressure, in the dark, over long periods of patience. Visualize that crystal forming, atom by atom, perfect and clear. It is a symbol of clarity and durability. In your own rest, you're undergoing a similar process. The pressures of the day are being compressed and crystallized into wisdom, into memory, into strength. You're solidifying your own inner resources in the quiet dark of sleep. Let your mind become as clear as that diamond, reflecting the light, hard and unbreakable, resting peacefully in the deep, safe embrace of the earth. From the slow, geologic time of the diamond, we travel to the surface, to a misty grove in East Asia where the air is humid and smells of wet greenery. Here, life moves at a startling pace. We stand amidst a forest of bamboo, their segmented stalks reaching straight for the heavens like green pillars. Bamboo is not a tree, but a grass, and it holds the record for the fastest growing plant on the planet. Some species of bamboo can grow up to 35 inches in a single day. That is nearly 1.5 inches every hour. If you were to sit quietly in the grove, perfectly still, you could almost see it rising. With sensitive enough equipment, you could hear it. A soft series of creaks and groans as the cells elongate and the culms stretch upward, drinking in the water and the light. It is a display of vigorous vertical energy, a rush of life force that refuses to be contained. Picture yourself lying on a soft mat of bamboo leaves, looking up at the canopy. The stalks sway gently in the wind, knocking together with a hollow wooden musicality, clack, clack, hush. It is a natural wind chime. Despite their rapid growth and height, the bamboo is flexible. It bends in the storm but does not break, a lesson in resilience. Let the sound of the bamboo leaves rustling in the wind soothe you, a white noise of nature that speaks of growth, flexibility, and the effortless ease of rising toward the sky. We leave the green grove and float back to the cool, rocking comfort of the Pacific coast. We find ourselves near a kelp forest, where the waves are gentle rollers. Here, floating on their backs, are the sea otters. They are settling in for their own sleep, bobbing cork-like on the surface. But the ocean is moving, and they risk drifting apart in the current. To solve this, they engage in one of the most tender behaviours in the animal kingdom. As they drift into sleep, sea otters will reach out and hold hands. They clasp paws, creating a living raft of fur and warmth, tethering themselves to one another so they do not wake up alone in the vast ocean. Sometimes they wrap themselves in strands of kelp, anchoring themselves to the sea floor. But often, it is the connection to another that keeps them safe. Visualize these creatures, eyes closed, floating peacefully under the grey sky. rising and falling with the swell of the sea, hand in hand. It is a supreme image of trust and connection. Feel that same sense of buoyancy in your own body. You are held, you are anchored. Whether by the bed beneath you, the roof above you, or the invisible connections of love in your life, you are not drifting away. You are safe to close your eyes, to let the current take you where it will, knowing that you are tethered to safety. Drift now, like the otter, warm and dry, rocking gently, slowly, endlessly into the night. As we continue to drift along the gentle currents of your imagination, let your mind linger on that image of the sea otters, floating hand in hand, rising and falling with the rhythmic breathing of the ocean. This gentle rocking motion, which cradles the otters and now cradles you in your bed, is not a random occurrence. It is the result of a silent, invisible tether that stretches across the vacuum of space. We are feeling the presence of the moon. Even though it hangs in the sky some 240,000 miles away, the moon possesses a gravitational pull that is like a heavy, velvet blanket draped over the Earth's oceans. As the moon orbits our planet, it drags this blanket with it, pulling the water toward itself and creating a massive planetary bulge. This is the tide. It is a slow, endless inhaling and exhaling of the world's waters. When you lie on the beach and watch the water creep up the sand and then recede, you're witnessing the Earth stretching toward its celestial companion. Visualize this on a global scale. Two massive waves of water are constantly traveling around the planet following the moon. It is a predictable, steady pulse that has continued for billions of years, a heartbeat of water that ensures stagnation never takes hold. There is a deep comfort in this predictability. Just as the tide is certain to return, your rest is certain to rejuvenate you. Allow your own breathing to sync with this planetary rhythm, in and out, high tide and low tide, a cosmic lullaby that rocks the entire world to sleep. Drifting deeper into this moving water, past the surface where the moonlight dances, we descend into the midnight blue of the deep ocean. Here, moving with the slow grace of a submerged island, swims the largest animal to have ever lived, the blue whale. To understand the scale of this gentle giant, imagine a creature whose tongue weighs as much as an elephant and whose heart is the size of a small car. But it is the rhythm of that heart that invites us to relax. Because of its immense size and the efficiency of its oxygen use, the blue whale's heart beats with a slowness that seems almost impossible to us. When it dives deep into the abyss, its heart rate can drop to as low as 4 to 8 beats per minute. Imagine that. A beat, and then a long, profound silence lasting 10, maybe 15 seconds, and then another beat. It is a rhythm of absolute unhurried existence. Picture yourself floating alongside this majestic being in the cool, clear depths. You can feel the reverberation of that slow, thunderous pulse in the water. It is a sound that travels for miles, a low-frequency drum. It reminds you that there is no need to rush. Life can be sustained at a slow, deliberate pace. In the presence of the whale, your own heart feels the permission to slow down, to lengthen the space between the beats, lengthening the moments of rest, sinking into a deep biological hibernation. From the depths of the ocean, our awareness rises, breaking the surface and taking to the air. We find ourselves gliding on the wind alongside the wandering albatross. This bird is a master of the air, possessing the largest wingspan of any living bird, stretching nearly 12 feet across. But the miracle of the albatross is not just its size, it is how it rests. These birds spend most of their lives over the open ocean, rarely touching land. So, how do they sleep? The albatross has developed a technique known as dynamic soaring, but they also have a unique anatomical feature, a tendon in their shoulder that acts like a locking mechanism. They can fully extend their wings and lock them into place, allowing them to keep their wings spread without using any muscle energy. They become a living kite, catching the updrafts of the waves. Visualize this bird high above the rolling sea, its eyes closed, its wings locked open, drifting effortlessly on the breeze. It is sleeping while flying, held up entirely by the air around it. It surrenders completely to the wind, trusting the atmosphere to carry it. Imagine if you could lock your muscles into a state of total release, letting the bed hold you as effortlessly as the wind holds the albatross. You're gliding through the night, weightless and free, carried by the currents of sleep toward the morning. As we fly higher with the albatross, we ascend into the realm of the clouds. These floating cathedrals of white are not merely gas. They're composed of billions of tiny liquid water droplets or ice crystals hanging in suspension. Specifically, imagine the low, soft blanket of a stratus cloud. These are the featureless grey-white layers that often hang low over the ground, creating a sense of cozy enclosure. A cloud forms when warm, moist air rises and cools. As it cools, the water vapour can no longer remain invisible gas. It needs something to hold on to, a tiny particle of dust or salt or pollen, known as a cloud condensation nucleus. The water clings to this speck, turning into a liquid droplet. When billions of them gather, they become a visible cloud. Picture yourself wrapped in this cool, damp mist. It is soft and silent, dampening the sounds of the world below. Being inside a cloud is like being inside a secret. The edges of the world blur and soften. The sharp lines of reality fade away, leaving only a white, hazy peace. It is a natural curtain drawn across the sky to dim the harshness of the sun, creating a diffused, gentle light that is kind to tired eyes. Let your mind dissipate like mist, losing its shape, drifting apart into a soft, formless relaxation. The mist from the clouds drifts inward, moving from the ocean toward the land, where it encounters the giants of the flora world, the coastal redwoods. These trees are the tallest living things on Earth, some reaching over 350 feet into the sky. But despite their size, they have a delicate relationship with the air. In the summer, rain is scarce in their habitat, but the fog is heavy. The redwoods have adapted to drink the sky. Their needles are designed to capture the tiny droplets of water suspended in the fog. The water condenses on the needles, coalescing into larger drops that fall to the damp ground below, watering the tree's own roots. It is a self-sustaining rain, created by the tree itself simply by standing in the mist. Visualize the quiet majesty of a redwood grove. The air is cool and smells of pine and damp earth. It is a cathedral of silence. High above, the trees are silently harvesting the fog, pulling life out of the grey air. It is a process of effortless abundance. They do not chase the water. They simply stand tall and let the water come to them. Feel that sense of stability in your own body. You do not need to chase sleep. Like the redwood, you only need to be still, and the nourishment you need will settle upon you naturally. At the foot of these giant trees, in the deep shade where the sun rarely touches the ground, grows a carpet of emerald green. This is moss. Moss is one of the oldest plants on land, a survivor from a time before flowers, before seeds, before roots. It does not have a vascular system to pump water. Instead, it absorbs moisture and nutrients directly through its leaves, like a sponge. Because it has no rigid structure, moss is incredibly soft. It grows in dense clumps, covering rocks, fallen logs, and the forest floor in a living velvet. Acoustically, moss is a silencer. Its complex, soft texture absorbs high-frequency sounds, contributing to the hushed, reverent atmosphere of an old-growth forest. Imagine walking barefoot across a floor of deep, thick moss. It yields under your weight, cool and forgiving, springing back slowly as you pass. It is the ultimate cushion, a layer of protection that turns the hard, unforgiving stone into a soft place to rest. Visualize your bed as a field of this ancient, soft greenery, absorbing the weight of your body, absorbing the noise of your thoughts, leaving only a quiet, green stillness in your mind. Flowing through this mossy forest is a clear, cold stream. If you look into the water, you will see stones that are perfectly round and smooth. These river stones began as jagged, sharp rocks, broken from the mountains high above. But over centuries the water has tumbled them, rolling them over and over against one another and against the sandy bottom. This process is a slow, physical meditation. The river takes the sharp edges, the jagged corners, and the rough surfaces and gently wears them away. It does not use force, it uses persistence. With every current, with every tumble, the stone becomes smoother, softer to the touch, more polished. Think of your own worries and stresses as those jagged rocks. Now, imagine the flow of this sleep narrative as the river. As the words wash over you, they gently tumble those thoughts, wearing down the sharp edges of your anxiety, smoothing out the roughness of your day. You're being polished by the flow of the night, turning into something calm, rounded and at peace, resting quietly in the bed of the stream. Buried even deeper than the river stones, hidden in the veins of quartz within the earth lies gold. We often think of gold as merely wealth, but its origin is cosmic. Every ounce of gold on our planet was forged in the cataclysmic death of a star, a supernova, or the collision of neutron stars billions of years ago. It is literally stardust, heavy and eternal, that travelled across the galaxy to settle here in the quiet dark of the crust. Gold is distinct because it is noble. It does not rust, it does not tarnish, it does not react with the air. It waits in the ground, perfectly unchanged by time. A nugget of gold sitting in a riverbed for 1,000 years looks exactly the same as the day it fell there. It captures a warm yellow light that feels like the sun, even when it is buried underground. Visualize a vein of this warm, heavy metal, sleeping deep inside the rock. It is dense and grounding. There is a comfort in its permanence. In a world that is constantly changing, rusting and fading, this element remains constant. Feel a sense of golden heaviness in your limbs now, a noble weight that anchors you to the mattress. You're made of the same stardust, heavy and precious, sinking deeper into the earth's embrace. Following the veins of the earth deeper still, we find ourselves in a vast hollow chamber, a limestone cave. The air here is perfectly still and maintains a constant temperature year-round, unaffected by the seasons above. Hanging from the ceiling are stalactites, stone icicles that have formed drop by single drop. When rainwater filters through the soil, it picks up carbon dioxide, becoming slightly acidic. As it drips through the limestone ceiling of the cave, it dissolves a tiny bit of the rock. When that drop hangs on the ceiling and evaporates, it leaves behind a microscopic ring of calcite. Over tens of thousands of years, these rings stack up one by one to form a stone spear. The growth rate is agonizingly slow, sometimes less than an inch every 100 years. It is a clock that ticks in centuries. To enter a cave is to step out of human time and into geologic time. There is no rush here. The darkness is absolute, and the silence is so profound you can hear the blood rushing in your ears. Visualize the slow, rhythmic drip, drip, drip of the mineral water. Each drop adds a tiny piece to the story of the stone. Let your mind slow down to match this pace, where a single second stretches out, and patience is the only law. Emerging from the cave, we follow the groundwater as it seeps into the roots of a plant that knows the secrets of the dark, the lotus. We find ourselves at the edge of a calm, moonlit pond. The surface is still, mirroring the stars. Rising out of the muddy bottom, pushing through the murky water, stands the lotus flower, pristine and white. The lotus possesses a remarkable quality known as ultra-hydrophobicity, or the lotus effect. Its leaves and petals are covered in microscopic bumps and wax crystals that repel water. When a drop of rain falls on a lotus leaf, it does not spread out and wet the surface. Instead, it beads up into a perfect shimmering sphere. As this pearl of water rolls off the leaf, it picks up every speck of dust and dirt, leaving the flower perfectly clean and dry. It is a miracle of self-cleaning. Despite growing in the mud, the lotus remains unstained. It separates itself from its surroundings while still being part of them. Visualize this flower glowing softly in the moonlight, untouched by the mud it rose from. Imagine that your mind is like the lotus leaf. Any stress, any worry, any noise from the day simply beads up like water and rolls right off you, leaving you untouched, clean, and serene. You're floating above the water, open and pure, ready to drift into the dreamless white of a peaceful night. As the image of the lotus flower fades, its pristine, water-repellent petals shimmering like a beacon of purity in the moonlight, we turn our attention to the water itself. Not the water of the pond, but the water hanging invisibly in the air around you. As the earth turns away from the sun and the temperature gently falls, we arrive at a specific magical threshold known to meteorologists as the dew point. It is the moment when the atmosphere, heavy with invisible moisture, can no longer hold its breath. It exhales gently onto the cooling grass, turning vapor into liquid silence. This is the phenomenon of morning dew. It is not rain. It does not fall from the clouds above. It manifests right where it lies, born from the meeting of cool air and warm earth. Imagine the grass outside your window, each blade suddenly crowned with a perfect spherical jewel of water. These droplets are pure distilled water, pulled from the air itself. In the quiet hours before dawn, the world is being washed, not by a storm but by a microscopic, gentle accumulation. Visualize a single droplet of dew clinging to the tip of a leaf. It acts as a perfect lens, capturing the inverted image of the world around it, the sky, the trees, the stars, all contained within a sphere no larger than a pearl. It is a world within a world. This moisture provides a vital drink for the insects and plants that dwell in the driest places, a silent delivery of life that happens only when the world is still enough to receive it. Let your mind settle into that stillness, feeling as cool and refreshed as the garden at daybreak, covered in a blanket of glistening temporary diamonds. As the morning light begins to touch these dewdrops, they reveal a structure that was previously invisible in the dark. Stretching between the branches of an old oak tree is a masterpiece of engineering, made visible only by the pearls of water caught on its strands. This is the web of the orb weaver spider. While we often brush them aside, the silk that creates this structure is one of the most miraculous materials in the universe. Spider silk is a biological marvel that scientists have tried to replicate for decades. Pound for pound, this gossamer thread is stronger than high-grade steel and tougher than Kevlar. It is a liquid crystal protein that hardens the moment it is pulled from the spider's spinneret. But its true genius lies in its duality. It is incredibly strong, yet forgivingly stretchy. If it were too stiff, the wind would snap it. If it were too loose, it would sag. It exists in a perfect state of balance, absorbing the energy of the wind and the impact of flying insects without breaking. Picture the silk thread trembling in the breeze, elastic and resilient. It is a lesson in yielding. The web survives not because it is rigid, but because it is flexible. It bends with the forces of the world rather than fighting them. In your own rest, seek that same flexibility. Allow your body to be heavy but soft, your mind strong but yielding, catching the dreams that float by without strain, suspended in a hammock of safety that is both delicate and unbreakable. The spiral shape of the spider's web draws our eye inward, leading us to another spiral found on the forest floor, hidden among the damp shade of the undergrowth. Here, pushing up through the soil, are the fiddleheads of the fern. Before a fern becomes a broad green frond, it begins as a tight coiled spring. This shape is a perfect example of a fractal, a pattern that repeats itself infinitely at every scale. If you look closely at the unrolling fern, you see that the main coil is made of smaller coils, and those smaller coils are composed of even smaller ones. It is a geometry of self-similarity, a design that nature loves so much it uses it everywhere. This unfurling process has a name: cercinate venation. It is a slow, deliberate opening, a protecting of the delicate tip until the stem is strong enough to support it. Visualize this slow unfurling in your own mind. Like the fern, you do not need to be fully open to the world at all times. There is a time to be coiled, to turn inward, to protect the soft center of your being. Sleep is your time of coiling. It is the time to wrap yourself in the comfort of the blankets, curling inward to recharge, preparing to unfurl your leaves to the sun only when the morning comes. For now, enjoy the safety of the spiral, the tight, cozy geometry of rest. This spiral pattern is not limited to the land. If we drift from the forest back to the ocean, we find this same sacred geometry constructed in calcium carbonate. Floating in the deep, warm waters of the Pacific is the nautilus. This ancient creature, a living fossil that has patrolled the oceans for hundreds of millions of years, lives inside a shell that is a perfect logarithmic spiral. As the nautilus grows, it becomes too large for its living quarters. It does not leave its shell. Instead, it builds a new, larger chamber at the opening, seals off the old one behind it, and moves forward. The empty chambers behind it are filled with gas, which the nautilus creates to control its buoyancy. It is a submarine of its own making, rising and falling in the water column by adjusting the gas in the rooms of its past. Imagine the perfection of this shell, the golden ratio calcified in stone. It suggests that growth is a continuous expansion, a moving forward while carrying the history of where you've been. The nautilus uses its past, the empty chambers, to help it float. It turns the weight of history into buoyancy. Let yourself float with the nautilus now, bobbing gently in the deep blue, carried by the lightness of your own journey, protected by a beautiful spiraling shield that grows with you. Inside the shells of other mollusks, specifically the oyster, another miracle of protection is taking place. Deep in the dark, wet interior of the shell, a tiny intruder, a grain of sand or a parasite, slips in. It is an irritant, a rough, jagged point of discomfort for the soft creature inside. But the oyster does not fight the irritant. It does not try to expel it with force. Instead, it embraces it. The oyster begins to secrete a substance called nacre, or mother of pearl. This creates smooth, microscopic layers of calcium carbonate and protein, coating the rough grain of sand. Layer by layer, year by year, the oyster wraps the source of its pain in a smooth, iridescent blanket. The sharp edges are rounded off. The roughness is made slick. Over time, the irritant is transformed into a pearl. This is the ultimate alchemy of nature, turning pain into beauty, turning a disturbance into a gem. As you lie here, think of the small worries or stresses that may have irritated you today. Do not fight them. Instead, wrap them in layers of soft mental nacre. Coat them in the smooth, iridescent substance of your relaxation. Turn them into something round, smooth, and harmless. Let them sit in the bottom of your mind, no longer sharp, transformed into quiet, glowing pearls of wisdom. Drifting from the shell beds, we wash up onto the shore where the sand meets the surf. Here, scattered among the pebbles, we find another transformation: sea glass. This was once a jagged shard of a broken bottle, sharp and dangerous, tossed carelessly into the waves. But the ocean, with its infinite patience, accepted this foreign object and began to work on it. For decades, the glass has been tumbled in the surf, rubbed against the sand and bathed in the salt water. The process is one of relentless, gentle friction. The shine is replaced by a soft, frosted texture. The razor-sharp edges are worn down until they are perfectly smooth and rounded. What was once trash has become a jewel of the beach, a mermaid's tear. Visualize holding a piece of teal or amber sea glass in your hand. It is cool, smooth, and cloudy. It feels like a worry stone, comforting to the touch. It is a testament to the power of the environment to soften the hardest edges. The ocean did not break the glass, it refined it. Allow the currents of sleep to do the same for you. Let the waves of the night tumble you gently, wearing away the sharp edges of your mood, leaving you soft, frosted, and at peace with the world. Further down the beach, where the river meets the sea, we encounter a landscape that belongs to both the land and the water. This is the mangrove forest. These trees are unique. They stand on stilts, their tangled roots rising high out of the mud, forming an intricate wooden lattice above the waterline. They live in the place where fresh water mixes with salt, a boundary that would kill most other plants. The roots of the mangrove are not just anchors, they are snorkels. Covered in specialised pores called lenticels, they breathe air during low tide to survive the oxygen-poor mud. But their greatest gift is their stability. These tangled roots trap sediment, slowing the flow of water, preventing erosion, and actually building new land over time. They are the guardians of the coast, absorbing the energy of storms and waves, creating a calm, sheltered nursery for thousands of young fish behind their protective barrier. Picture this complex woven wall of roots standing firm in the shallow water. The water flows through them, but the violence of the waves is stripped away, leaving only a gentle ripple. Imagine you're resting behind such a barrier. The chaos of the world may crash against the outside, but where you are in the shelter of the mangroves, the water is still. You're protected by a natural fortress that turns the crashing ocean into a quiet, safe lagoon. Moving inland from the coast, following the fresh water upstream, we find a tree that behaves very differently from the sturdy mangrove. Standing on the grassy bank of a slow-moving river is the weeping willow. Its form is one of total surrender. Its long, slender branches hang down like curtains, sweeping the ground and trailing their tips in the flowing water. The willow is associated with water, not just because it grows near it, but because its wood is filled with it. It is incredibly flexible. When a storm comes, the oak tree might resist and break, but the willow yields. It bows before the wind, its branches streaming horizontally, letting the gale pass through. It survives by bending, and within its bark flows a natural medicine, salicin, the precursor to aspirin. For centuries, this tree has been a source of pain relief for humans. Visualize the green canopy of the willow creating a private enclosed dome around the trunk. To sit beneath a weeping willow is to be hidden from the world by a veil of leaves. It is a green room of solitude. The branches sway hypnotically in the breeze, a pendulum of nature rocking back and forth. Swish, swish. The sound is soft and rhythmic. Let the spirit of the willow ease your pain, soothing any aches in your body and teaching you the wisdom of letting go, of bowing your head and resting until the storm has passed. In the fields beyond the river, under the heat of the afternoon sun, grows a plant that offers a different kind of softness. This is the cotton plant. After the flower has bloomed and fallen away, a seed pod, known as a boll, begins to swell. When it is fully ripe, the hard shell cracks open and out bursts a cloud of pure white fibres. These fibres are almost pure cellulose, designed by nature to catch the wind and disperse the seeds. But unlike the parachute of the dandelion, the cotton boll is dense, fluffy, and incredibly absorbent. It is the texture of comfort. It is the fabric that likely touches your skin right now. It is the cool pillowcase against your cheek. It is the soft sheet pulled up to your chin. Imagine standing in a field of cotton ready for harvest. It looks like it has snowed in the middle of summer. Thousands of soft white puffs dot the landscape, motionless and quiet. Reaching out to touch one, you find it is warm from the sun and softer than anything you have ever felt. It creates a barrier between you and the hardness of the world. Focus on the sensation of the fabric around you now. It is the harvest of the earth, spun and woven to keep you warm, to keep you safe. A tactile reminder that nature provides for your comfort. Drifting from the white fields, we float upward toward the high mountains where the air is thin and crisp. Here, clinging to the rocky, windswept slopes, lives the oldest living individual organism on Earth, the bristlecone pine. Some of these gnarled, twisted trees have been standing for over 4,800 years. They were saplings when the pyramids were being built. They were ancient when the Roman Empire fell. The bristlecone pine does not survive in spite of the harsh conditions, but because of them. The cold, dry air and the rocky soil cause the tree to grow agonizingly slowly. This slow growth makes the wood incredibly dense and resinous, resistant to rot, insects, and disease. The wind sculpts the tree into fantastical shapes, stripping away the bark on the windward side, leaving polished orange-gold wood that looks like stone. Visualize this ancient sentinel standing alone on the mountaintop under a sky full of stars. It is silent, immovable, and utterly patient. It breathes only a few weeks out of the year. It suggests that there is no rush to life. Durability comes from taking your time. In the presence of such deep time, your current worries are merely fleeting clouds passing over the mountain. The tree stands firm, witnessing the centuries roll by, anchored in the peace of eternity. You too can be that still. You too can endure simply by resting and letting the winds of time blow past you. From the ancient wood of the pine, our mind travels to another form of wood, one that has undergone an even deeper transformation. We are looking at a piece of petrified wood. Millions of years ago, a forest fell and was buried rapidly by volcanic ash or mud, cutting off the oxygen. Over eons, groundwater rich in silica flowed through the logs. The process is a slow-motion magic trick. Molecule by molecule, the plant material was replaced by stone. The minerals crystallized inside the cells of the wood, preserving every detail, the rings, the bark texture, even the wormholes, but turning them into solid agate, opal, and quartz. The wood has become a gem. It is heavy, cold, and polished, displaying rainbows of red, orange, and purple, derived from iron and manganese. Imagine touching the smooth, glass-like surface of a petrified log. It looks like wood, but it feels like cool, solid rock. It is a bridge between the biological and the geological. It is a memory of life preserved forever in stone. It tells us that nothing is truly lost. It simply changes form. The energy of the ancient forest is still there, locked in a beautiful permanent sleep. Feel your own body becoming heavy and still, sinking into the mattress, as solid and peaceful as the stone wood, grounded in the deep history of the earth. This burying of the past leads us to think of the ground itself. If you were to slice into the earth, you would see layers, stripes of colour stacked one on top of the other. These are sedimentary strata. Each layer represents a different era of the world, a different environment that existed millions of years ago. A band of red sandstone might be an ancient desert, a layer of grey shale, a vanished ocean, a seam of black coal, a prehistoric swamp. The earth is a library, and these layers are the pages. They are laid down horizontally, flat and even, by the slow settling of dust and mud. This is the principle of original horizontality. Gravity, over millions of years, pulls everything to a place of rest, flattening it out, creating order from chaos. Visualize these layers beneath you, extending down for miles. You're resting on top of the history of the world, supported by the stable, stacked foundations of the planet. There is a great comfort in this stability. The earth is not hollow, it is packed with evidence of the past, solid and secure. Let your mind drift down through the layers, through the soil, through the clay, through the sandstone, through the limestone, deeper and deeper into the quiet, dark, solid bedrock of the world. As we descend into the geology of the planet, we encounter the heat that lives at the centre of the stone. But this heat can create new land. We are witnessing the birth of an island. Deep beneath the ocean, a hot spot in the mantle punches through the crust, spewing lava into the cold water. This is how the Hawaiian Islands were formed. When the molten rock hits the seawater, it explodes in a cloud of steam and instantly hardens into new rock called basalt. It is a process of creation through cooling. The volcano builds itself up from the seafloor, layer by layer, until it breaks the surface of the waves. It is the only way the Earth gains new territory. Visualize the steam rising from the black rocks, the hissing sound of fire meeting water. It is a primal, elemental sound. But once the lava cools, it becomes fertile ground. The black stone, rich in minerals, eventually breaks down to become the most lush, green soil on the planet. From the fire comes the flower. It is a reminder that even intense energy eventually cools into solid ground. Let the heat of your thoughts meet the cool ocean of sleep, solidifying into a new, quiet landscape where dreams can take root and grow. High above these volcanic islands, riding the thermal currents of warm air rising from the land, is the frigate bird. But we are looking specifically at how it navigates the vast, featureless ocean. It is guided by an invisible force, the Earth's magnetic field. Our planet is essentially a giant bar magnet, with field lines arching from the South Pole to the North Pole. This magnetic bubble, the magnetosphere, protects us from solar radiation, but it also acts as a global GPS. Sea turtles, birds, and even lobsters have microscopic crystals of magnetite in their brains or beaks, which align with these field lines. They can feel which way is north. They are never lost. Imagine this invisible web of guidance stretching across the sky and through the earth. You cannot see it, but it is always there, guiding the travellers home. You too have a home in sleep. You do not need to force your way there. You simply need to let go and let your internal compass guide you. There is a natural pull toward rest, a magnetic attraction to the state of unconsciousness. Trust that pull. Let it draw you in, guiding you effortlessly through the dark, back to the place where you belong. As we align with the magnetic north, we find ourselves in the silence of the Arctic tundra. Here, the ground is permanently frozen, a layer of soil known as permafrost. It is rock hard, binding the earth together in a grip of ice that has lasted for thousands of years. But on the surface, something miraculous happens in the short summer. The top few inches of soil thaw, creating a soggy, waterlogged landscape because the water cannot drain through the ice below. In this shallow, cold water, life explodes. Mosses, lichens, and tiny wildflowers bloom with frantic, beautiful energy, taking advantage of the midnight sun. Visualize this vast, open landscape, flat and quiet under a pale blue sky. The air is the cleanest on Earth. Beneath you is the solid assurance of the ice, a foundation that never moves. Above is the infinite light. It is a place of perfect preservation. The cold holds everything in suspension. Let the cool, fresh air of the tundra fill your lungs, chilling the back of your throat, freezing your worries in place, leaving you with a mind as clear and open as the northern horizon. Finally, we drift from the frozen north to the warm, slow-moving waters of the Sargasso Sea. This is the only sea in the world without a coast. It is defined not by land, but by 4 ocean currents that swirl around it, trapping a vast floating forest of golden sargassum seaweed. The water here is exceptionally clear and deep blue, and the surface is matted with this floating vegetation. It is a golden raft in the middle of the Atlantic, a sanctuary for tiny sea creatures, baby turtles, and eels. The seaweed does not root in the ocean floor. It floats forever, reproducing vegetatively, drifting in a slow, clockwise circle. Visualize yourself lying on this golden mat suspended over the deep. The ocean currents rotate slowly around you, isolating this place from the rest of the world. The waters of the Sargasso are legendary for their calmness. The wind rarely blows here. It is the eye of the Atlantic. You are floating in the centre of the centre, protected on all sides by the swirling activity of the world. But here, in the middle, there is only peace. Drift on this golden raft, bathed in warm light, rocking gently, going nowhere, simply existing in the quiet heart of the ocean. Suspended in the golden calm of the Sargasso Sea, we find the beginning of one of nature's most mysterious journeys. Billions of tiny lives are starting here, born in the deep indigo waters, destined to travel thousands of miles. These are the larvae of the European eel, but they look nothing like the creatures they will become. At this stage, they are known as glass eels. Imagine a creature so perfectly adapted to the open ocean that it has rendered itself invisible. These tiny ribbon-like beings are entirely transparent, composed almost exclusively of clear gelatin and water. They are ghosts of the sea, drifting invisibly to avoid the gaze of predators. If you were to look into the water, you might only see a pair of tiny dark eyes floating in the void. They do not swim with effort. Rather, they surrender to the water, allowing the ocean to be their vehicle. They are a testament to the power of transparency, of letting go of one's ego and identity, becoming one with the environment. Visualize yourself becoming as light and clear as a glass eel, shedding the weight of your physical form, drifting unseen and undisturbed. A pure consciousness floating in the safety of the deep blue. These tiny travelers do not move by their own power. They are carried by a massive underwater river known as the Gulf Stream. This is not merely a current. It is a global conveyor belt of heat and energy, a vast artery of warm blue water moving through the colder Atlantic. It flows with a volume greater than all the rivers of the world combined, yet it moves with a silent, majestic power. The Gulf Stream is the reason why distant lands remain warm in the winter. It carries the stored heat of the tropics like a gift to the north. Picture this stream as a warm embrace wrapping around the planet. To be caught in it is to be held in a cradle of perpetual warmth. It suggests that you do not need to struggle to get to where you're going. There are forces in the universe larger than you, powerful currents of benevolence that will carry you to your destination. You simply need to trust the flow, lie back, and let the warmth propel you forward through the night. As the warm current approaches the coast, it spills into shallow, sun-drenched lagoons, where the light filters down to the sandy bottom in shafts of gold. Here, hovering in the tepid water, we find the gentle giant of the sea, the manatee. These creatures are the embodiment of relaxation. With their round, buoyant bodies and slow-moving flippers, they spend their days in a state of semi-weightless suspension, grazing on the ocean floor. The manatee has no natural predators, and because of this, it has evolved a temperament of absolute peace. It does not fight, it does not flee, it simply exists. They move with a deliberate slowness, often rolling lazily onto their backs to nap on the sandy bottom, rising only occasionally to breathe before sinking back down into the dream. Visualize the feeling of being a manatee, heavy yet weightless, surrounded by warm, supporting water, moving through your environment with a slow, rolling grace that refuses to be hurried by anything in the world. The manatee grazes upon vast underwater prairies known as seagrass meadows. Unlike seaweed, which clings to rocks, seagrass has roots that bury deep into the sand, anchoring the ocean floor. These meadows are the lungs of the shallow seas, releasing continuous streams of oxygen bubbles that rise like tiny pearls toward the surface. Imagine swimming through a field of Posidonia grass. The long emerald green ribbons stand 3 feet tall, waving in unison with the ebb and flow of the tide. Swish, swish. It is a hypnotic, synchronized dance. The density of the grass muffles the sounds of the ocean, creating a hushed green sanctuary. Small fish dart between the blades, safe and hidden. Focus on the image of that swaying grass, bending gently with the water, never breaking, always flexible, painting the ocean floor with a living, breathing shade of green. Let your mind lie down in that soft, underwater field, hidden and held by the swaying ribbons. Following the manatees, we drift from the salt water into the mouth of a great river, moving upstream into the heart of the continent. We have arrived at the Amazon, a body of water so vast it is often called the River Sea. The scale of the Amazon is difficult to comprehend. In the wet season, it swells to 30 miles wide, a moving expanse of brown silk that slides silently through the jungle. The surface of the river is a perfect mirror, reflecting the towering clouds and the dense green wall of the rainforest. Beneath the surface, the water is rich with silt, carrying the very earth of the Andes Mountains down to the sea. It is a river of creation, constantly reshaping the land, building islands and carving new paths. Despite its immense power, the flow is smooth and silent. There are no rapids here, only a deep, unstoppable momentum. Feel that depth in your own spirit, a reservoir of calm power that flows steadily through the center of your being, wide, deep, and quiet. In the rainy season, the river rises so high that it spills over its banks and swallows the forest whole. This creates a magical, temporary world known as the Várzea, or the flooded forest. Here, fish swim among the trunks of trees, and river dolphins navigate through the canopy. The boundaries between land and water are dissolved. Picture yourself paddling a small canoe through this submerged woodland. The water is black and still, stained by the tannins of the leaves, acting like a dark glass that perfectly doubles the image of every tree. The silence here is profound, broken only by the distant call of a bird or the splash of a fruit falling into the water. It is a place of mystery and shelter, where the forest holds the river in its arms. Glide through this dark, mirrored hallway of trees, feeling the coolness of the shade and the damp, earthy scent of the jungle, drifting deeper into the hidden rooms of the rainforest. Floating in the quiet backwaters of these flooded forests, we encounter the largest flower on Earth, the Victoria Amazonica, or the giant water lily. These massive circular leaves can grow up to 10 feet in diameter, expansive platters of green that float perfectly flat on the water surface. They are huge enough and buoyant enough to support the weight of a small child. The secret to their strength lies underneath. If you were to look below the waterline, you would see a complex architectural network of air-filled ribs radiating from the centre, structurally engineering the leaf to be both light and rigid. They push the other plants aside, claiming their space in the sun with quiet confidence. At night they bloom, a large white flower that smells of sweet pineapple, opening only for the darkness. Visualize resting on one of these giant sturdy leaves. It is a natural raft, dry and warm, floating securely on the surface of the dark water, holding you up effortlessly while the river flows beneath. On the muddy banks of the river, warming itself in the patches of sunlight that break through the canopy, sits the capybara. As the world's largest rodent, the capybara possesses a unique quality among prey animals, a profound sense of chill. They're often seen sitting perfectly still for hours, eyes half closed, surrounded by birds, turtles, and even other mammals that use them as a comfortable perch. The capybara is a master of stillness. They do not twitch. They do not scan the horizon with anxiety. They simply sit, emanating a vibe of total peacefulness that seems to infect the animals around them. They are comfortable in the mud, comfortable in the water, and comfortable in the sun. They accept the world exactly as it is. Imagine adopting the posture of the capybara, heavy, grounded, and utterly relaxed, sinking your weight into the soft earth, content to simply sit and breathe while the jungle buzzes around you. Moving from the riverbank up into the canopy, we find a creature that has taken the concept of slow and turned it into a survival strategy, the three-toed sloth. In a world that rewards speed, the sloth has chosen the opposite path. It moves with such agonizing deliberation that it is invisible to predators like jaguars and eagles, whose eyes are trained to detect quick movements. The sloth's muscles are efficient, specialized for hanging rather than running. Their curved claws hook over the branches, allowing them to suspend themselves without using energy. They are the hammocks of the animal kingdom. A sloth does not rush to find food. It simply reaches for the nearest leaf, chews it slowly, and digests it for days. They live life in slow motion, unaffected by the frantic pace of the creatures below. Let your own thoughts slow down to match the sloth. Reach out slowly, grab a pleasant dream, and hold on to it. There is no rush. You have all the time in the world. The sloth is so still and so slow that it eventually becomes part of the forest itself. Its fur is grooved and coarse, designed to trap moisture, creating a perfect hydroponic garden for algae to grow. This turns the sloth green, allowing it to blend perfectly into the leaves. It is not just in the tree, it is the tree. This is the ultimate form of belonging. The sloth hosts an entire ecosystem of moths and fungi in its fur, a quiet landlord to tiny guests. It suggests that if you stay still long enough, nature will embrace you, wrap you in its colours, and make you part of the landscape. Visualize yourself blending into your surroundings, your edges softening, your breathing sinking with the rustle of the leaves, until you're no longer separate from the night, but woven into its very fabric, green, mossy, and asleep. As the sloth merges perfectly with the canopy, disappearing into the moss and the leaves, the sunlight begins to fade completely from the forest. The green turns to grey, and then to a deep, velvety black. But in this specific corner of the world, deep in the ancient woodlands of the Great Smoky Mountains, the darkness is not empty. As our eyes adjust to the absence of the sun, the air around us begins to pulse with a strange rhythmic luminescence. We are witnessing the phenomenon of the synchronous fireflies. Unlike most fireflies that flash randomly, these tiny beetles have evolved a mysterious capacity for coordination. They possess an internal clock that allows them to sync their bioluminescence with their neighbours. Imagine standing in a cathedral of trees where, suddenly, thousands of tiny yellow-green lights flare to life at the exact same instant. Flash. And then 6 seconds of total heavy darkness. Flash. The entire forest blinks in unison. It is a biological heartbeat, a silent rhythm of light that ripples through the woods. Visualize yourself standing in the center of this display. It is as if the stars have descended from the sky to dance among the tree trunks. The synchronization is imperfect at first, a few stray sparks, but soon the wave aligns and the woods breathe with light. It is a hypnotic, silent code. There is a profound sense of unity here, a reminder that individual lives can align to create a single, magnificent moment. Let your own breathing sync with this pattern. Inhale with the light, exhale into the comfortable dark, drifting deeper into the rhythm of the night. Watching this display from a high branch, hidden in the shadows, is a creature that rules the silence, the barn owl. While the fireflies are masters of light, the owl is the master of sound, specifically the absence of it. Most birds create a whoosh when they take off, a turbulence of air crashing against their wings. But the owl is different. It has evolved a stealth technology that makes it a ghost of the air. The leading edge of the owl's primary feathers is serrated like a comb. This breaks up the air into tiny chaotic currents, micro-turbulences, rather than a single large wave. The surface of the wing is covered in a soft velvet-like pile that absorbs the remaining noise. The result is flight that is acoustically invisible. An owl can fly inches from your head, and you would hear nothing but the silence of the night. Picture this magnificent bird launching from a branch. It spreads its wings wide, white and pale gold, and glides through the darkness without a whisper. It does not fight the air. It moves through it like a thought. It is the embodiment of grace and precision. Imagine that your own thoughts are becoming like the owl, weightless, silent, gliding effortlessly through the dark space of your mind, landing softly without disturbing the stillness of your rest. The owl flies toward the sound of falling water, leading us out of the dense forest to a clearing where a waterfall cascades over a cliff. The moon is full and bright tonight, hanging directly opposite the falls. Here, in the mist rising from the crashing water, a rare and ethereal phantom appears, a moonbow. We are used to the rainbows of the day, bold and colourful, painted by the sun, but the moon can paint too. When the light of the full moon refracts through the mist of a waterfall, it creates a lunar rainbow. Because the moonlight is so much fainter than sunlight, the colours are often too subtle for the human eye to distinguish fully. To us it appears as a ghostly silver arc stretching across the black sky, a bridge of pure white light. Visualize standing at the base of the falls, the cool mist kissing your face. Above you, this silver bow glows against the stars. It is delicate, rare, and requires the perfect alignment of elements to exist. It feels like a secret revealed only to those who are awake while the world sleeps. It is a reminder that beauty does not need to be loud or bright. It can be soft, monochrome, and quiet. Let the silver light of the moonbow wash over you, a cool, cleansing arc that bridges the gap between your waking day and your dreaming night. We follow the water from the falls as it flows into a river, which eventually dries up as we enter a vast arid landscape. The trees are gone, replaced by rolling dunes of sand that stretch to the horizon. The night air here is cold and incredibly clear. As the wind shifts, blowing across the crests of the dunes, a low humming sound begins to rise from the ground. We have found the singing sands. This acoustic phenomenon occurs in only a few dozen places on Earth. When sand grains are of a specific size and contain silica, and when the humidity is just right, the friction of the grains rubbing together creates a low-frequency drone. It can sound like a distant propeller plane, a cello, or a Gregorian chant rising from the earth itself. It is the desert humming a lullaby. Imagine lying on the slope of a great dune, the sand cool beneath your back. As you shift your weight, or as the wind moves the sand, the earth vibrates with a deep, resonant hum. It is a sound that is felt in the bones as much as heard with the ears. It is a grounding vibration, a heavy sonic blanket that covers the silence of the desert. Let this deep, earthly drone vibrate through you, loosening any tension in your muscles, vibrating at the frequency of sleep. Standing sentinel over these singing dunes, silhouetted against the starry sky, is the saguaro cactus. This is not just a plant, it is a monument to patience. A saguaro can live for 200 years, but its growth is agonizingly slow. It might take 70 years before it even grows its first arm. It stands there, upright and unmoving, watching the decades pass like minutes. But the saguaro has a secret hidden inside its pleated skin. Its stem is built like an accordion. In the dry years, the pleats are deep and the cactus is slender. But when the rare desert rain falls, the saguaro expands. It can absorb hundreds of gallons of water in a single storm, swelling outward, its pleats flattening to hold the precious liquid. It holds this water for years, surviving on the abundance of the past. Visualize this giant guardian, swollen with life-giving water, standing strong against the dry wind. It does not panic when the rain stops. It has enough inner resources to last. It is self-sufficient, solid, and prepared. Feel that same sense of fullness within yourself. You have gathered everything you need. You have the reserves to carry you through the night. You can stand tall and rest, knowing that your inner well is full. At the foot of the saguaro, blowing across the dry ground, is what looks like a dead ball of dry twigs. It is the Rose of Jericho, also known as the resurrection plant. For months, or even years, this plant can exist in a state of suspended animation called anhydrobiosis. It curls into a tight brown ball, protecting its center, waiting for better times. It looks completely lifeless. But if a single pool of water collects near it, a miraculous transformation begins. Within hours, the dry ball begins to uncurl. The brown turns to a deep, rich green. It opens like a hand, spreading its fronds to drink the moisture. It comes back to life, vibrant and fresh, as if it had never been dry at all. This is the ultimate promise of nature. Rest is not the end. It is merely a pause. The plant knows how to wait. It knows that the water will return. Visualize your own mind uncurling like the Rose of Jericho. As you sink into sleep, you're dipping into the waters of rejuvenation. You're uncurling your thoughts, letting the green return, preparing to wake up fresh and restored. But for now, it is safe to curl up, to be small, to wait in the comfortable dark. The water that revives the desert plants often comes from deep underground. Following the roots of the palms, we find ourselves at an oasis. In the middle of the endless sand, a geological fault has allowed the ancient water table to bubble up to the surface. It creates a shocking contrast, a circle of lush, emerald green in a sea of beige. The air inside the oasis is significantly cooler than the surrounding desert, a microclimate of relief. Tall date palms rise up, their fronds arching overhead to create a permanent shade. These trees are known as the feet in the water, head in the fire plants. They love the sun on their leaves but require constant water for their roots. Picture yourself stepping out of the harsh open desert and into the sanctuary of the oasis. The sound of the wind changes from a hiss to a rustle. The light turns green and dappled. It is a hidden room of comfort. Imagine that sleep is your oasis. The day may be hot and demanding, a long trek across the sand, but you have now arrived at the pool. You can drink, you can rest, you can cool down. The palm trees stand guard around you, blocking out the glare, leaving you in the cool, watery shade. Leaving the oasis, the water flows out and eventually spreads into a wide, shallow basin where it has nowhere to go but up. It evaporates under the sun, leaving behind a vast, blindingly white expanse, the salt flats. We're at the Sala de Uyuni in Bolivia, the world's largest salt flat. It is a crust of salt incredibly thick and incredibly flat, stretching for thousands of square miles. In the rainy season, a thin layer of water, perhaps only an inch deep, covers this white plain. Because the ground is so perfectly flat, the water becomes the world's largest mirror. The horizon disappears completely. The sky above is perfectly reflected in the ground below. Clouds float under your feet. The stars shine from the depths. Visualize walking across this mirror. It feels like you're walking in the sky. There is no up or down, only infinite blue and infinite light. It is a place of total clarity and disorientation in the most beautiful way. The boundaries of the world dissolve. The boundaries of you dissolve. You're floating in a sphere of sky. Let this image of infinite space expand in your mind, clearing out the clutter, wiping the slate clean until there is nothing left but a peaceful, silent reflection. In some of these salt lakes, the water takes on a colour that defies logic. We drift toward a lagoon that is not blue, but a vivid, milky pink. These are the pink lakes, coloured by a microscopic algae called Dunaliella salina. In order to survive the high salt content, these tiny organisms produce beta-carotene, the same pigment found in carrots, to protect themselves from the sun. The result is a landscape that looks like a dream. The water is warm, thick with salt, and coloured like rose quartz or bubblegum. It contrasts sharply with the white salt crust and the blue sky. It is a reminder that nature is not afraid of being bold, even in the harshest conditions. Imagine floating in this pink water. Because of the high salinity, you cannot sink. You're more buoyant here than anywhere else on Earth. You bob on the surface like a cork, half in the warm pink water, half in the cool air. It requires zero effort to stay afloat. You're held up by the density of the water itself. Surrender to that buoyancy. Lift your feet, tilt your head back, and let the strange, beautiful waters carry you. Standing in these pink waters, feeding on the algae, is a bird that wears the colour of its food, the flamingo. A flock of flamingos is called a flamboyance, and they stand on their stilt-like legs, heads down, filtering the water. But watch how they rest. A flamingo will tuck one leg up against its body, balancing perfectly on the other. This is not a balancing act that requires effort. It is actually a locking mechanism in their joints that requires less muscular energy than standing on two legs. It also helps them conserve body heat. They tuck their head into the feathers of their back, becoming a soft pink oval of feathers on a stick. Visualize the stillness of the flock at dusk. Hundreds of birds standing on one leg, perfectly balanced, perfectly still. They are communal sleepers, finding safety in numbers. The soft murmuring of the flock is a comforting white noise. Murmur, splash, murmur. Imagine that you too can lock into a position of rest. You can find that balance point where no effort is needed to hold yourself up. You can tuck your head into the soft warmth of the pillow, close your eyes, and stand still in the river of sleep, surrounded by the quiet company of the night. As the flamingo tucks its head into the soft curve of its back, seeking the warmth of its own plumage, let us look closer at the material that makes such comfort possible. We are observing the miracle of the feather. To the naked eye, a feather appears to be a single smooth vein, but under a microscope it reveals itself to be a marvel of natural engineering, a structure designed for connection and cohesion. Extending from the central shaft of the feather are thousands of tiny branches called barbs, and extending from each barb are even smaller branches called barbules. These barbules are equipped with microscopic hooks, like a biological zipper. When a bird preens, running its beak carefully along its feathers, it is not merely cleaning itself, it is re-zipping the fabric of its coat. It is aligning millions of tiny hooks to create a seamless, windproof and waterproof seal. Visualize this act of preening. It is a ritual of self-care and restoration. With every stroke, the bird repairs the fraying of the day, smoothing out the ruffled edges, locking the warmth in and the cold out. Imagine that you are performing a similar action with your own mind right now. With every slow breath, you are smoothing down the ruffled thoughts of the day. You are mentally zipping up the protective layer around you, sealing yourself inside a warm, impenetrable cocoon of peace, where the winds of the outside world can no longer reach you. This need for warmth and connection draws us from the solitary bird to the bottom of the world, to the frozen expanse of Antarctica, where the cold is absolute. Here, the emperor penguins demonstrate one of the most powerful examples of communal cooperation in the animal kingdom. To survive the biting katabatic winds, they do not dig burrows. Instead, they build a structure out of themselves. They form a huddle. This is not a static pile of bodies, but a slow-moving living wave. Thousands of penguins stand shoulder to shoulder, backs to the wind, heads bowed. The heat generated by their bodies is trapped in the centre of the circle, creating a tropical microclimate in the midst of the ice. But they are fair. The huddle constantly rotates. In a slow, imperceptible shuffle, the birds on the wind-battered edge move gradually toward the warm centre, while the warmed birds from the centre drift slowly to the edge to take their turn guarding the group. Picture this slow, rotating spiral of warmth on the white ice. It is a silent agreement of shared burden and shared comfort. No one is left out in the cold for long. Everyone gets their turn in the warmth. Feel that sense of collective safety wrapping around you. You're safely in the centre of the huddle now, protected by the strength of everything that loves you, shielded from the cold, absorbing the radiant heat of absolute security. In the centre of this huddle, balanced precariously on the tops of their feet, the male penguins carry the future. They are holding a single egg. Because the ice is too cold for life, the father must keep the egg off the ground, tucked under a warm fold of abdominal skin called the brood pouch. For months through the darkest winter and the fiercest storms, he does not eat. He simply stands and balances. This act requires a stillness that is almost meditative. He must be aware of his centre of gravity at every moment. If he moves too fast, the egg could roll away and freeze. If he panics, the future is lost. So he remains grounded, patient, and incredibly gentle. It is a stillness born of purpose. Visualize that white, smooth egg, safe and warm against the feathers, hovering just inches above the frozen world. It represents your own inner peace. It is delicate, yes, but it is being held with infinite care. You do not need to grip it tightly. You only need to balance it gently. Imagine your awareness settling into your feet, grounding you, holding that precious stillness safe and warm, protected from the elements by the soft, heavy layers of your relaxation. Surrounding these colonies of life is a landscape of moving ice. We often think of ice as solid and unyielding, but on a massive scale, ice behaves like a liquid. We are looking at a glacier. It is a river of ice, miles long and thousands of feet deep, winding its way down the mountain valleys toward the sea. Though it looks stationary to the human eye, the glacier is flowing. Under the immense weight of its own snow, the ice crystals deform and slide past one another. It moves at a glacial pace, perhaps only a few feet a day, but it is unstoppable. It possesses a momentum that is heavy, slow, and powerful. It carves the mountains, grinds the rock into flour, and reshapes the continents, all without ever rushing. Visualize this massive river of white, sliding in slow motion. Hear the deep, distant groans and creaks of the ice settling, the sound of the earth stretching in its sleep. It is a reminder that you do not need to move fast to make progress. You can move slowly, heavily, and with great purpose. Let your body feel like the glacier, heavy, cool, and sliding imperceptibly deeper into the valley of sleep, carried by the sheer weight of your own relaxation. As we look deeper into the crevasses of this glacier, the colour changes. The surface may be white with snow, but the heart of the glacier is a shocking, vibrant blue. This is not a reflection of the sky. It is the true colour of dense ice. When snow falls, it is full of air bubbles appearing white. But as layer upon layer accumulates over thousands of years, the weight compresses the lower layers. The air bubbles are squeezed out, and the ice crystals enlarge and interlock. This dense ice absorbs every colour of the spectrum except blue, which it scatters back to our eyes. This blue light is the visual signature of pressure transforming into beauty. Imagine peering into a deep fissure in the ice, seeing that glowing electric sapphire light emanating from within. It is ancient light, travelling through ice that fell as snow before civilization began. It feels cool, clean, and pure. Let this glacial blue light fill your mind. It is a colour that suggests clarity and depth. Allow the pressure of the day to compress your thoughts, squeezing out the air and the noise, leaving behind only this clear, solid, blue tranquility. Where the glacier meets the sea, the ice eventually sublimates, turning from solid directly into vapour, and rises to join the atmosphere, drifting south to warmer lands. Here, as the seasons turn to winter, we witness a different kind of freezing. On the surface of a calm, freezing lake, or sometimes on the stems of plants, delicate structures known as frost flowers begin to bloom. These are not biological flowers, but formations of ice that grow in the stillness of the night. As water vapour escapes from cracks in the ice or the stem of a plant, it freezes instantly upon contact with the cold air. It creates thin, petal-like sheets of ice that curl and twist, forming exquisite fern-like bouquets. They are incredibly fragile, a breath of wind would shatter them. They exist only where the air is perfectly still. They are a testament to the beauty that arises from silence. If the lake were churning, they could not form. Visualize these crystalline blossoms unfurling on the surface of a black, silent lake. They sparkle in the starlight, sharp and perfect. They are the physical manifestation of quiet. Let your mind become that still lake, so calm and undisturbed that beautiful, delicate dreams can bloom on your surface, undisturbed by any ripple. As the frost covers the land, the heartbeat of the forest begins to slow down. Deep in a den beneath the roots of a great cedar or buried in the side of a hill, the black bear is entering hibernation. This is not merely a long nap. It is a profound physiological shift. The bear is turning down the dial of its own existence. Its heart rate drops from a vigorous 40 beats per minute to a mere 8. Its body temperature lowers. Its breathing becomes shallow and infrequent, sometimes with 45 seconds of silence between breaths. It is a state of suspended animation, a metabolic truce with the world. The bear does not eat, drink, or move for months. It relies entirely on the resources it gathered in the abundance of autumn. Visualize this heavy, warm creature curled into a ball in the dark, earthy scent of the den. It is totally safe, insulated by fat and fur and earth. It has given itself permission to stop, not just to pause, but to stop completely. You have that same permission. You do not need to be productive right now. You can turn down the dial, lower your heart rate, slow your breath, and sink into the long, dark, restorative winter of the night. While the bear sleeps for the season, a much smaller creature sleeps for the night, but with equal intensity. The hummingbird, a creature of pure kinetic energy, lives life at such a frantic pace that it faces a crisis every evening. If it continued to burn energy at its normal rate, it would starve before sunrise. To survive, it enters a state called torpor. Torpor is a mini hibernation. The hummingbird finds a safe twig, fluffs its feathers, and shuts down. Its body temperature can drop by 50 degrees. Its heart, which normally hammers at over 1,000 beats per minute, slows to a faint rhythmic thump. It becomes rigid and unresponsive, locked in a deep biological trance to conserve every ounce of fuel. Imagine this tiny, jewel-like bird, usually a blur of motion, now hanging upside down or perched perfectly still, cold and quiet. It surrenders its energy completely to the void of sleep. It trusts that the sun will warm it back to life in the morning. For now, it lets go of the need to fly, the need to hover, the need to feed. It simply is. Let yourself drop into that state of torpor, letting the high energy of the day drain away, leaving you heavy, cool, and perfectly still. Not all creatures face the cold alone. Inside the hollow trunk of an oak tree, the honeybees are engaged in a collective struggle against the winter. Unlike the bear or the hummingbird, bees do not hibernate. Instead, they form a winter cluster. The queen is at the centre. Around her, thousands of worker bees interlock their legs and bodies to form a dense living ball. They flex their wing muscles without moving their wings, shivering to generate heat. The outer layer of bees acts as an insulating shell tightly packed to trap the warmth. As the bees on the outside get cold, they burrow into the centre to warm up, pushing the warm inner bees outward. It is a constant, slow-motion churn of care. The hive maintains a core temperature of over 90 degrees, even when the air outside is below freezing. It is a furnace made of sisterhood. Visualize this golden, humming sphere of warmth hidden inside the frozen tree. It glows with life. Imagine that warmth in the centre of your own chest, a self-sustaining fire that keeps the cold at bay. You are warm, you're protected, and you're holding on to the vital heat of life through the long, dark night. Fueling this engine of warmth is a substance that captures the essence of summer, honey. This golden liquid is one of the only foods on Earth that never spoils. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in Egyptian tombs, thousands of years old, that are still perfectly edible. The bees create this longevity by fanning the nectar with their wings until the water content evaporates, becoming too low for bacteria to survive. They also add an enzyme that produces small amounts of hydrogen peroxide. They are sealing the sunlight, the flower essence, and the energy of the season into a sterile golden amber. Visualize a jar of this thick, slow-moving liquid. Watch how it folds over itself, viscous and heavy. It is concentrated patience. It is time stopped in sweetness. Imagine your memories of warmth and happiness as honey, stored safely in the jars of your mind. They will not fade. They will not spoil. They are there for you to draw upon whenever you need fuel. Let your thoughts move like honey now, slow, golden and sweet, coating your mind in a thick, soothing layer of comfort as you drift deeper into the hive of sleep. This golden preservation reminds us of another substance that captures time: amber. Millions of years ago, a pine tree in a prehistoric forest suffered a wound, a broken branch, or a beetle bite. To heal itself, the tree wept a sticky, thick resin. This resin flowed over the bark, sealing the wound, trapping anything in its path, a tiny air bubble, a leaf, or a feather. Over eons, buried in the earth, this resin hardened and fossilized, turning into the gemstone we call amber. It is literally a fossilized tear of a tree. But unlike cold stones, amber feels warm to the touch. When rubbed, it becomes electrically charged. The Greek word for amber is electron, the origin of our word electricity. Visualize a piece of polished amber, glowing orange and gold in the firelight. Look inside it. There, suspended in the center, is a moment from 50 million years ago, perfectly preserved. The light inside it is soft and diffused. It is a capsule of eternity. Think of your sleep as that resin, a warm, thick substance that flows over the worries of the day, sealing them off, healing the scratches on your mind, and hardening into a beautiful, quiet stillness that will last until the morning sun rises. Drifting deeper into the glowing golden heart of that amber, we find ourselves looking not just at a preserved moment, but at the very vessel that created it, the tree itself. If you were to slice horizontally through the trunk of a great oak or a towering pine, you would discover a hidden map of time, a series of concentric circles radiating outward from the center. These are the tree rings. Each ring is a chapter in a biography written in wood. The light wide bands represent the spring, a time of rapid growth, abundant rain, and stretching toward the sun. The dark, thin bands mark the late summer and autumn, when the growth slows, the walls of the cells thicken, and the tree prepares for the dormancy of winter. Together they form a rhythm of expansion and rest, echoing the beating of a very slow heart. Visualize running your finger over the surface of a cut stump. It feels like a vinyl record of history. Here is a wide ring, a year of plenty, a year of long, lazy summers. Here is a narrow, tight ring, a year of drought, a year of struggle, where the tree had to hold on tight to survive. The tree does not hide its history, it keeps it deep inside, wrapping each new year around the last, embracing its own past. As you lie in the quiet, imagine your own life as these rings, expanding outward from your center. The hard years and the easy years are all there, supporting you, making you wider, stronger, and more solid. You're built of your past, but you're always growing a new, fresh ring on the outside, protected by the bark, ready for the new spring. Moving from the solid wood to the liquid life that flows within it, we encounter the phenomenon of sap flow. In the deep freeze of winter, the tree stands dormant, a statue of ice and wood. But as the days lengthen and the first hint of warmth touches the bark, a miraculous pressure begins to build in the roots. Deep underground, the tree converts the starches stored in its roots into sugar. This sugar mixes with the groundwater to create a sweet, energy-rich elixir. Defying gravity, this sap begins to rise. It travels up through the xylem, the microscopic pipelines in the wood, pumping upward to wake the sleeping buds high in the canopy. In the sugar maple, this pressure can be incredibly high, forcing the sweet water up 40 feet or more, a silent fountain rising against the pull of the earth. Imagine this sweet, clear liquid moving silently through the veins of the forest. It is the blood of the spring carrying the promise of green leaves and new life. It suggests that even when you feel frozen or stagnant, there is energy rising within you, often beneath the level of your awareness. You're storing sweetness. You're preparing to bloom. Let this image of rising, sugary energy soothe you, a slow, steady replenishment that happens without any effort on your part, filling your branches with the fuel they need for the morning. Sometimes, a tree's journey of growth comes to an end, and it falls to the forest floor. But in the ecosystem of the ancient woods, this is not an end, but a new beginning. The fallen giant becomes a nurse log. Lying horizontally on the damp earth, the wood begins to soften, accepting the embrace of the moss and the fungi. As the wood decays, it becomes a sponge, holding rainwater and nutrients. It becomes the perfect nursery for the next generation. Seeds from hemlocks and spruces fall onto this soft raised bed, where they are lifted above the competition of the forest floor. Their roots grow down through the softening wood of their ancestor, drawing sustenance from the body of the fallen tree until they reach the soil below. Visualize this scene, a line of young, vibrant green saplings growing in a straight row along the back of a mossy, decaying log. It is a slow-motion transfer of life. The old gives itself completely to the young. It is a vision of perfect generosity and continuity. Nothing is wasted. The fall of the heavy tree provides the foundation for the light new growth. Rest in the knowledge that you are part of this endless cycle of support. You are held by the earth, just as the seedling is held by the log, nourished and supported by everything that came before you. As these young trees reach upward, joining the elders in the roof of the forest, they engage in a silent, respectful behaviour known as crown shyness. If you were to stand on the forest floor and look straight up at the canopy of certain tree species, like the camphor or the eucalyptus, you would see a puzzle of green against the blue sky. The branches of the trees reach out toward one another, spreading their leaves to catch the light. But they never quite touch. They leave a meandering channel of empty space, a few inches wide, running between their respective crowns. It looks like a river of sky flowing between the islands of leaves. Scientists believe this prevents the spread of leaf-eating insects or protects the branches from damaging each other in the wind. Picture this glowing green mosaic above your head. The trees are communal, standing together in a vast forest, yet they respect each other's personal space. They allow the light to pass through the cracks, illuminating the floor below. It is a visual representation of healthy boundaries, being close but not encroaching, being connected but distinct. Let your mind trace the glowing blue lines of the sky between the leaves, wandering through that labyrinth of light, feeling the airiness and the breathing room that nature creates for itself. Among these trees, particularly in the high mountains and northern forests, stands the quaking aspen. This tree possesses a unique design feature that turns the wind into music. The stem of the aspen leaf, called the petiole, is not round like other stems. It is flat and broad. Because of this flattened shape, the leaf is unstable. It cannot hang still. Even the slightest breath of air, a breeze you wouldn't even feel on your cheek, causes the leaf to twist and flutter. When thousands of leaves do this at once, the tree shimmers. It looks like a cascade of trembling gold coins. But more importantly, it creates a sound unlike any other tree, a soft, dry, rhythmic whispering. Shh, shh, shh. Visualize a grove of aspens in the autumn, their leaves bright yellow against a deep blue sky. The wind moves through them, and the entire grove begins to sing a hushed, rushing song. It is a white noise generator of the highest order. It is the sound of the air making itself known. Let that soft, dry rustling fill your ears, a continuous, gentle applause from nature, washing over you, drowning out the silence, lulling you into a state of hypnotic calm. This grove of aspens is hiding a secret that is deeper than its roots. In fact, the roots are the secret. In a place like the Fish Lake National Forest in Utah, there lives an organism known as pando, which translates from Latin as I spread. To the naked eye, it looks like a forest of 47,000 individual trees. But genetic testing has revealed the truth. It is one single tree. Every trunk you see is genetically identical, connected by a massive singular underground root system that spans over 100 acres. It is a clonal colony. The roots send up new shoots that become new trunks, but they're all part of the one trembling giant. Pando is estimated to be thousands of years old, perhaps tens of thousands. When one trunk dies, the root system simply sends up another. Imagine the comfort of this connection. Pando looks like a crowd, but it is an individual. It is never alone because it is everything around it. Beneath the soil, in the dark, warm earth, everything is holding hands. There is no separation. Visualize yourself as part of such a system, rooted deeply, connected to a vast network of life, supported by a massive, invisible web that ensures you are never truly solitary, never truly cut off. You are part of the one great life. High in the branches of this vast, interconnected forest, a sound pierces the twilight, a flute-like melody that seems to echo against itself. It is the song of the wood thrush, or perhaps the hermit thrush. This bird is capable of a musical feat that humans can only dream of. It can sing two notes at the same time. While humans have a larynx with one set of vocal cords, birds have a syrinx located deeper in their chest, where the windpipe branches into the lungs. This organ has two separate membranes, The bird can control each side independently, producing a low note and a high note simultaneously, weaving them together into a complex harmonic spiral of sound. Visualize this small speckled bird tilting its head back, filling the dusk with a self-harmonizing lullaby. The sound is ethereal, almost metallic, ringing through the trees like a silver bell. It is a song that spirals upward, lifting the spirit. Listen to that imaginary double voice, a perfect harmony created by a single breath. It suggests that within you too there are different voices, different feelings, but they can be harmonized into one beautiful, coherent song. Let the melody spiral you up and away, dissolving into the gathering grey of the evening. As the season turns and the air grows cold, these songs begin to fade as the birds look to the south. We are witnessing the Great Migration. Millions of birds, from the tiny warbler to the great crane, lift off from the land to embark on a journey of thousands of miles. They are following an ancient, invisible highway in the sky. This journey is powered by an instinct so deep it is written into their DNA. They do not need a map. They read the stars. They sense the angle of the sun. They feel the magnetic pull of the earth. Some birds, like the swift, will stay on the wing for months, sleeping in short bursts while flying, never touching the ground. Imagine the freedom of that flight, to simply lift your wings and trust that you know the way. You do not need to plan the route. The route is inside you. You're carried by the wind and guided by the stars. Visualize a vast river of birds flowing high above the clouds in the moonlight, a silent, determined procession moving toward the warmth. You're drifting with them, leaving the cold behind, moving unerringly toward a place of rest and abundance. Among these travellers, the starlings perform a ballet that defies physics. In the evenings, before settling down to roost, they gather in flocks of thousands to perform a murmuration. They form a dark, shifting cloud against the sunset. This cloud expands, contracts, twists, and swirls, moving like a fluid rather than a group of solid animals. They do not have a leader. Each bird is simply paying attention to the 7 birds closest to it. They react to the movement of their neighbours in milliseconds, faster than the blink of an eye. If one turns, they all turn. This creates a ripple effect, a wave of motion that travels through the flock, turning the group into a shape-shifting organism. Picture this living sculpture of smoke and shadow dancing over the fields. It looks like ink swirling in water. It is a display of perfect, egoless cooperation. There is no I in the murmuration. There is only we. Watch the shapes morph and flow in your mind's eye. An hourglass, a ribbon, a sphere, hypnotic and smooth. It is the visual definition of flow state. Let your thoughts become like the starlings, losing their individual edges, merging into a single fluid movement that sweeps you gently toward the horizon. One bird, however, does not stop at the equator. The Arctic tern flies past the tropics, past the temperate zones, all the way to the other side of the world. It travels from the Arctic summer to the Antarctic summer, a round trip of over 40,000 miles every year. Because it lives at the poles only when the sun is shining, the Arctic tern sees more daylight than any other creature on Earth. It is a bird of perpetual light. It chases the sun. It lives in a world where the sun rarely sets. Imagine what it would be like to live in a state of endless golden illumination, to glide over the blue oceans and the white ice, bathed forever in the glow of the day. But even this bird must rest. Visualize it gliding over the open ocean, the sun dipping low to the horizon, kissing the water but never fully disappearing. It is the midnight sun. The sky is a canvas of soft pinks, violets, and burnished gold that lasts for hours. This is the light of the magic hour, frozen in time. You're floating in that soft painted light. The harshness of high noon is gone, replaced by the gentle, everlasting glow of a sun that watches over you but does not demand you to wake. You're safe in the light, drifting on the wind, halfway between the earth and the sky. As the Arctic tern drifts through the perpetual glow of the midnight sun, bathing in that soft, unending twilight, our gaze is drawn to the horizon opposite the sun. There, in the quiet moments just after sunset or before sunrise, a phenomenon of exquisite subtlety appears. It is a band of pinkish-orange light that hugs the edge of the world, separating the dark blue of the sky from the blackness of the land below. This is the belt of Venus, or the anti-twilight arch. This delicate ribbon of colour is created by the atmosphere backscattering the red light of the setting sun. But look closely beneath the pink band. There is a darker, slate-blue wedge rising up from the horizon. This darkness is the shadow of the Earth itself. You're seeing the physical shadow of the planet you rest upon, cast outward into the atmosphere, projected against the sky. Visualize this vast planetary shadow rising slowly like a heavy blue eyelid closing over the world. It is the visual signal of the night. It reminds us that darkness is not a void. It is simply the Earth turning its back to the star, creating a cool, shaded space for us to sleep. Watch the pink belt fade and the blue shadow climb higher, wrapping you in the protective shade of the planet, covering you like a heavy velvet quilt. As the Earth's shadow claims the sky and the stars begin to emerge, if we look even higher, up to the very edge of space, some 50 miles above the ground, we might see the electric blue tendrils of noctilucent clouds. These are the highest clouds in our atmosphere, existing in the mesosphere, a region so cold and thin that it is nearly a vacuum. These night-shining clouds are made of ice crystals that form around tiny particles of meteor smoke. Because they are so high, they catch the sunlight long after the sun has set for us on the ground. While the world below is dark, these clouds are still glowing with a ghostly silver-blue luminescence. They ripple and undulate like a frozen ocean suspended in the void. Imagine lying on your back, looking up at this impossible ceiling. The clouds look like ripples in sand or wisps of bright smoke etched against the blackness of space. They are a bridge between the air and the ether. They suggest that even in the deepest night there is still light caught in the upper reaches, a silent, glowing vigil watching over the sleeping world. Let your mind float up to that high, cold altitude, drifting among the silver crystals, far above the weather, far above the noise. The particles that form the heart of these clouds, the meteor smoke, remind us that we are constantly interacting with the cosmos. Every day, the Earth travels through clouds of cosmic dust. It is estimated that roughly 60 tons of this dust falls to our planet every single day. It settles on our roofs, on the leaves of trees, and on the surface of the oceans. It is stardust, microscopic grains of rock and metal from comets and asteroids that have travelled billions of miles to land here. This means that the ground you walk on and the air you breathe contains tiny pieces of the universe. It is a gentle, invisible rain of history. These particles are often magnetic, tiny micrometeorites that look like perfect spheres under a microscope. Visualize this slow, invisible dusting. It is a silent accumulation of the cosmos. It connects you to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. You're not separated from the stars, you're being slowly covered by them. Feel a sense of heaviness and substance, knowing that the Earth is growing, atom by atom, gathering mass from the journey through space. Let that cosmic weight settle on your eyelids, heavy and comforting, grounding you in the universe. This dust does not just fall from space, it also travels across the oceans. Lifted on the great thermal currents of the African continent, millions of tons of dust are swept up from the Sahara Desert every year. This massive red-brown cloud drifts westward across the Atlantic Ocean, a river of earth moving through the sky. After a journey of thousands of miles, this dust settles over the Amazon rainforest. This is not an accident. It is a vital delivery. The Saharan dust is rich in phosphorus, a nutrient that the lush Amazon soil lacks. The bones of ancient sea creatures that once lived in the Sahara, when it was an ocean, are now blowing across the world to feed the lungs of the planet. Picture this global connection. The dry, barren desert is feeding the wet, green jungle. The red dust sprinkles down through the canopy, disappearing into the soil, becoming the fuel for the orchids and the towering kapok trees. It is a testament to the fact that everything is connected. The wind is a carrier of gifts. Imagine yourself as part of this flow, drifting on the trade winds, weightless and purposeful, crossing the ocean to find exactly where you need to be. The winds that carry this dust eventually converge near the equator, in a region known to sailors as the doldrums, or the intertropical convergence zone. Here, the trade winds from the north and the trade winds from the south meet and neutralize each other. The air rises straight up, leaving the surface of the ocean perfectly, eerily still. For centuries, ships would wait here for weeks, their sails hanging limp and useless. But for us, the doldrums represent the ultimate calm. The ocean surface becomes a flawless mirror, reflecting the clouds with such precision that you cannot tell where the water ends and the sky begins. The horizon vanishes. Visualize floating in this glassy calm. There is no chop, no swell, no sound of splashing. The water is thick and silky. It is a pause in the motion of the world. It is a place where there is nothing to do but wait, and in that waiting, there is peace. The urgency of movement is gone. The wind has stopped breathing. The ocean is holding its breath. You are suspended in the center of a silent blue sphere, perfectly at rest. Sinking beneath this glass-like surface, we descend into the warm tropical water. But as we dive deeper, we suddenly hit an invisible barrier. This is the thermocline. In the ocean, water does not cool gradually. It is stratified. The sun-warmed surface water floats on top of the denser, colder deep water. The boundary between them is sharp and distinct. Divers describe passing through the thermocline as a physical sensation. You move from the bath-warm embrace of the surface into a crisp, refreshing coolness that wakes up every nerve ending, then soothes them. It looks like a shimmer in the water, like heat haze on a road, where the two temperatures meet but do not mix. Imagine your body sliding through this layer. It is a transition from the active world of the light and heat into the preserved, cool world of the deep. It feels like a cool sheet being pulled up over you on a warm night. It is a blanket of temperature. Let yourself sink past this boundary, leaving the warmth of the day behind, and entering the cool, slow, consistent temperature of the deep ocean, where the heat of the sun cannot reach to disturb you. Below the thermocline, the light fades to indigo, and then to black. But the darkness is filled with a gentle downward motion. We are witnessing marine snow. This is the continuous silent shower of organic material falling from the surface to the seafloor. It consists of plankton, dust and detritus, clumped together by a sticky substance, forming white flakes that look exactly like snow. This snow falls continuously, day and night, year after year for millions of years. It creates a soft, thick layer of sediment on the bottom of the ocean, the dust of the sea. It is the food source for the deep dwellers, a manna from above. Visualize being suspended in the abyss, watching these white flakes drift past you in the beam of a light. They fall slowly, taking weeks to reach the bottom. It is a hypnotic, vertical flow. The silence here is absolute, and the motion is entirely downward. Gravity is gently pulling everything to rest. Let your thoughts become marine snow, clumping together, becoming heavy, and drifting slowly, endlessly down into the dark, settling softly on the quiet floor of your mind. On this deep, dark floor, where the pressure is immense and the current is nearly non-existent, stand the glass sponges. These are not the soft sponges of your bath. They are intricate skeletal structures made of silica, glass. They form delicate lace-like vases and funnels that can stand a metre tall. Because they live in the deep, they do not need to be flexible to survive waves. They can afford to be fragile. They filter the water silently, feeding on the marine snow, and they are incredibly ancient. Some glass sponges are estimated to be over 11,000 years old. They have been standing in the dark in the same spot since the end of the last ice age. Picture these pale, ghostly cathedrals of glass glowing faintly in the dark. They are structures of pure patience. They do not hunt. They do not move. They simply stand and allow the ocean to flow through them. They are open to the world, yet structurally sound. Imagine yourself as a glass sponge, rooted and calm, letting the currents of life flow through your lattice without resistance, filtering out what you need and letting the rest pass by, standing tall in the silent dark. Drifting past these ancient sponges is a shadow that moves even slower than the current. It is the Greenland shark. This creature is a true biological marvel of the deep. Living in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic, its metabolism moves at a glacial pace. It swims slowly, blindly, sweeping its tail with a lethargic, rhythmic beat. Scientists have discovered that the Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate on Earth. Some of them are over 400 years old. That means a shark swimming today might have been born before the telescope was invented, before the United States existed. It was a pup when Shakespeare was writing. This shark does not reach adulthood until it is 150 years old. It takes its time growing up. It takes its time going nowhere. It suggests that a slow life is a long life. Visualize this rough-skinned, grey giant cruising through the black water. It is not a predator of speed. It is a scavenger of patience. It has no need to rush. It has centuries. Feel that expansion of time in your own mind. You're not running out of time. You have the deep, slow time of the shark. You can drift. You can wait. You can simply be. Continuing along the ocean floor, we encounter a sight that defies logic. A lake underwater. We have found a brine pool. These are depressions in the seafloor filled with water that is extremely salty, 4 or 5 times saltier than the surrounding ocean. Because of this density, the brine does not mix with the seawater. It settles in a pool, creating a distinct surface complete with shorelines and ripples. It looks like a magical, impossible beach deep in the abyss. The pool is surrounded by mussels and crabs that live on the edge of the shore. If a submarine tries to descend into the pool, it will bounce off the surface of the brine, floating on top of the dense liquid just as a boat floats on the ocean. Visualize looking down from a ridge in the deep sea and seeing a shimmering milky blue lake glowing in the dark. It is a secret contained within a secret. It is quiet, still, and heavy. Imagine lying on the surface of that underwater lake. You're supported by the density of the brine, floating in total weightlessness, deep beneath the crushing weight of the ocean, protected in a sanctuary of heavy, still water. It is the deepest rest imaginable, a layering of quiet upon quiet, depth upon depth. Leaving the heavy, silent sanctuary of the underwater brine lake, our awareness sinks even deeper, drawn toward a faint, wavering heat signature rising from the abyss. We're approaching a hydrothermal vent. In the crushing darkness where the sun has never touched, the earth is exhaling. Superheated water, reaching temperatures of over 700 degrees, blast upward from cracks in the crust, carrying dissolved minerals from the planet's molten core. When this scorching fluid meets the freezing seawater, the minerals instantly precipitate, turning into black smoke that solidifies into towering chimneys of rock. These are the black smokers. They are the exhaust pipes of the planet's internal engine. Visualize these jagged, gothic spires looming in the dark, surrounded by shimmering clouds of heat. It is a place of intense energy, yet the pressure of the ocean keeps the water from boiling, holding the violence in a state of strange, contained stability. It is a reminder that even the most intense pressure can be endured, and that warmth can be found in the coldest, most unlikely places. Clinging to the sides of these volcanic chimneys, bathing in the toxic, mineral-rich soup, is a garden unlike any other. Here live the giant tube worms. These creatures have no mouth, no stomach, and no eyes. They grow up to 8 feet tall, standing upright in white, chitinous tubes that look like giant stalks of bamboo made of bone. At the tip of each tube is a bright red plume, swaying gently in the dark current, acting as a gill to absorb oxygen and hydrogen sulfide. The tube worm does not hunt. It exists in a perfect symbiotic embrace with billions of bacteria living inside it. The bacteria turn the chemicals from the vent into sugar, feeding the worm, while the worm provides a safe home for the bacteria. They stand together in the eternal night, a silent forest of white and crimson, thriving on the energy of the earth itself rather than the sun. Picture this deep-sea garden, swaying rhythmically in the warm water, a testament to the fact that life finds a way to flourish by simply standing still and cooperating with the unseen forces around it. These vents are not random, they are the seams of the world. We're standing on the edge of a tectonic plate. The floor of the ocean is not a solid, immovable bowl. It is a puzzle of massive stone rafts floating on the slow-moving molten mantle below. We often fear the earthquake, but the movement of these plates is usually a process of agonizing slowness. They move at roughly the same speed that your fingernails grow. Visualize the entire continent you're sleeping on as a giant ship, drifting imperceptibly across a sea of magma. It is a journey measured in millimeters and eras. There is a deep, grounding comfort in this heavy momentum. You're not stationary, you are travelling. The Earth is carrying you slowly and safely, rearranging the map of the world while you dream. Surrender to this massive planetary drift, knowing that you are supported by layers of rock 40 miles thick, floating on a river of fire that moves with the patience of eternity. As these massive plates drift, they inevitably meet. When two continents collide, the Earth buckles and folds, pushing the rock upward to pierce the sky. This is the birth of a mountain range. We follow the rising rock from the bottom of the ocean, lifting higher and higher until we are standing on the wind-swept peak of the Himalayas. This process, known as orogeny, is the Earth's way of reaching for the stars. It is a slow-motion collision that takes millions of years, turning the horizontal floor into a vertical spire. Visualize the rock crumbling and folding like a heavy tablecloth being pushed across a surface. The jagged peaks are merely the frozen snapshots of this fluid movement. Feel the strength of the mountain beneath you now, solid, ancient and raised high above the confusion of the lowlands. It is the ultimate high ground, a place of perspective and unshakable stability. Resting on these high peaks, hidden in the grey limestone of Mount Everest, we find a paradox that bends the mind: fossilized seashells. 4 miles above sea level, embedded in the roof of the world, are the remains of ancient ocean creatures: trilobites, crinoids, and ammonites. Millions of years ago, this mountain peak was the floor of the Tethys Sea. The tectonic forces we just witnessed lifted the ocean floor into the jet stream. It is a silent testimony to the fluidity of time and space. What is low will be high, what is water will be stone. Nothing is permanent, and yet nothing is lost. Visualize touching the spiral of a stone shell on the snowy summit. It connects the deepest ocean to the highest sky. It reminds you that your own life is a series of transformations, and that you can carry the memory of where you have been even as you rise to where you're going. Up here, in the thin air of the death zone, the atmosphere is stripped of its density. This creates a unique sensory experience: high-altitude silence. Sound waves need air molecules to travel. As the air gets thinner, it becomes a poorer conductor of sound. The roar of the wind may be present, but when the wind dies down, the silence that follows is sharper and more absolute than anywhere else on Earth. It is a vacuum of noise. The background hum of the world, the insects, the traffic, the rustle of leaves is gone. There is only the crystal clear quiet of the void. Visualize yourself sitting on a granite ledge, looking out over a sea of clouds. The air is crisp and cold. The silence presses against your ears, not as a pressure but as a release. It wipes the slate clean. Let this high-altitude silence envelop you, absorbing the mental noise of your day, leaving your mind as clear and empty as the blue sky above the peaks. Clinging to the wind-scoured rocks in this harsh environment is a splash of colour: bright orange, neon green, and sulphur yellow. This is lichen. It looks like paint or rust on the stone, but it is actually a composite organism, a marriage between a fungus and an algae. The fungus provides the structure and protection, shielding the algae from the UV radiation and drying winds. The algae in return photosynthesizes the sunlight to provide food for both. They are so intertwined that they cannot survive alone. Lichen is a pioneer. It eats rock. It produces a mild acid that slowly dissolves the stone, creating the first grains of soil. Picture this crusty, colourful life expanding across the grey rock, millimetre by millimetre, century by century. It is the colour of time. It can go dormant for years when it is dry, brittle and lifeless, only to sponge up the moisture of a passing cloud and turn soft and vibrant again in minutes. Imagine your own resilience mirroring the lichen. You can weather the dry spells, you can cling to the hard places, and when the nourishment comes, you're ready to soften and drink it in. Navigating these vertical walls with impossible grace is the alpine ibex. This mountain goat possesses a sense of balance that defies gravity. Its hooves are split in two, allowing them to pinch the rock, and the pads of their feet are soft and rubbery, acting like suction cups on the sheer granite faces. They move deliberately, stepping onto ledges no wider than a coin. They do not look down with fear, they look forward with focus. Watch the ibex in your mind's eye, scaling the side of a dam or a cliff face to lick the mineral salts from the stones. They are calm in the face of the precipice. They trust their footing completely. Feel that sense of sure-footedness in your own body. You're not slipping. You're secure. You have the grip and the balance to handle the terrain of your life, moving steadily upward without fear of the fall. Buried deep beneath the rocks where the ibex climbs, waiting out the freezing winter, is the Himalayan marmot. These large ground squirrels are the champions of social sleeping. When the winter snows begin to fall, they retreat into deep, sophisticated burrows lined with dry grass. But they do not sleep alone. An entire family of marmots, parents and offspring, will pack themselves into a single sleeping chamber. They curl up in a giant pile of fur, burying their noses in each other's warmth. This communal hibernation allows them to share body heat and survive temperatures that would freeze a solitary animal. Visualize this cozy underground den. It is dark, smelling of earth and dried hay. The sound of the wind outside is muffled by feet of soil. Inside, there is only the slow, rhythmic breathing of the family, a warm, furry heap of safety. Imagine joining this pile, burrowing into the warmth, feeling the comfort of being surrounded by soft, breathing life. You are hidden from the storm, you're deep in the earth, you're safe to close your eyes and drift away for the season. From the high mountains of Asia, our mind flies across the ocean to the high mountains of Mexico, to the trans-volcanic belt. Here, in the cool, thin air of the Oyamel fir forests, we witness one of the most spectacular sleeping events on the planet, the overwintering of the monarch butterflies. After travelling 3,000 miles from Canada, millions of these orange and black butterflies converge on a few specific mountain groves. They cloak the trees entirely. The branches of the firs actually bend under the collective weight of the butterflies. They cling to the needles and to each other in dense clusters, overlapping their wings like shingles on a roof to insulate themselves from the rain and cold. In the cool mountain air, they enter a state of suspended animation. They are paralysed by the chill, unable to fly, simply hanging in the grey mist. But when the sun breaks through the clouds and hits the trees, the forest explodes into colour. The grey clusters open their wings and the trees turn into pillars of fire. Visualize standing in this silent, sacred forest. The air is filled with the softest sound imaginable, the friction of millions of velvet wings rubbing together. It sounds like a gentle rain. See the branches heavy with sleeping beauty. They are resting after an impossible journey, waiting for the warmth to return. Let your mind settle onto one of those branches, folding your wings, blending into the cluster, held by the tree in the company of millions of fellow travellers, waiting peacefully in the cool, quiet mist. As the mist swirls around the sleeping clusters of monarch butterflies in the Mexican mountains, the night deepens, spreading its cool, dark wings across the northern continent. In the deciduous forests of North America, under the light of the same moon, another winged creature emerges, one that is the very embodiment of the night itself. This is the lunar moth. Everything about this creature is designed to be ghost-like. Its wings are a pale, translucent lime green, a colour that glows softly in the moonlight, mimicking the light filtering through spring leaves. It does not flutter frantically like the day-flying butterflies. It glides with a slow, erratic grace. Trailing behind its hind wings are long, twisting tails. These are not merely for decoration. They twist and spin in the air to scatter the sonar of hunting bats, creating a diversion that allows the moth to drift safely through the dark. But the most profound aspect of the lunar moth is its silence and its purpose. When it emerges from its cocoon, it has no mouth. It has no digestive system. It cannot eat and it cannot drink. It has shed all earthly needs. It lives for only 1 week, and in that time, its sole purpose is to find a mate and continue the cycle of life. It is a creature of pure intention, unburdened by the need to sustain itself. Visualize this pale green spirit floating through the black forest, completely free from the demands of hunger or thirst, existing only to fly, to love, and to rest. It is a fleeting, beautiful dream given wings, reminding us that sometimes we can let go of our daily needs and simply float in the purpose of the moment. The lunar moth's tails are designed to fool the sonar of the bat, but if we follow that concept of navigation in the dark, we find ourselves transported to the damp, echoing limestone caves of New Zealand. Here, the ceiling of the cave is not made of stone, but seems to be an open window to a galaxy of blue stars. We are looking at the phenomenon of the glowworms, or Arachnocampa luminosa. These are not worms, but the larvae of a fungus gnat. They hang from the damp ceiling of the cave and construct a sticky, silken snare. They drop dozens of thin, vertical threads, like fishing lines, coated in droplets of mucus. To attract their prey in the pitch black, the larva produces a bioluminescent blue-green light from its tail. Imagine drifting in a small boat on an underground river, looking up at this subterranean Milky Way. Thousands of tiny blue points of light reflect in the dark water below you. It is a silent, starry night that exists permanently underground, unaffected by the sun or the clouds outside. The light is cool and steady. It is a beacon of patience. The glowworm sits and waits, trusting that the light will bring it what it needs. Let your mind float in this inner space, illuminated by the soft biological constellations of your own dreams, a private galaxy that shines brightest when the outside world is dark. Sinking deeper into the aquatic systems of these subterranean caves, into the places where the water is still and untouched by any current, we encounter a creature that has become one with the darkness. This is the olm, often called the human fish, due to the pale, fleshy colour of its skin. This salamander has lived in the lightless caves of Europe for millions of years. Because it lives in total darkness, the olm has no need for eyes. Its eyes have undeveloped and are covered by layers of skin. It is blind, but it is not lost. It senses the world through acute chemical and electrical receptors. But its true superpower is its stillness. The olm has an incredibly slow metabolism. It can go without food for up to 10 years. Scientists have observed individual olms that have not moved from the same spot for 7 years. They simply rest. They are the monks of the animal kingdom, meditating in the cool, dark water, unbothered by the passage of time. They do not experience boredom, they experience being. Visualize yourself as the olm, suspended in the cool, clear water of a limestone cave. There is absolutely nothing you need to do. You can stay right where you are. You can rest for a decade, perfectly still, perfectly safe, wrapped in the comforting blanket of the eternal rock. Emerging from the mouth of the cave as the sun begins to rise, we look up to the ceiling near the entrance. Hanging there, shrouded in their leathery wings, are the bats. They are settling in for their day of sleep as we begin our day. But consider the physics of their rest. They hang upside down. For a human, hanging by our fingers requires immense strength and energy. If we fell asleep, our muscles would relax and we would fall. But for the bat, the mechanism is reversed. Their talons are connected to a tendon that runs up their leg. When the bat's weight pulls down, the tendon pulls tight, locking the claws into a closed position. This means that for a bat, hanging on requires zero energy. It is gravity that holds them in place. To let go, they actually have to exert effort to flex the muscle and open the claw. Sleep is their default state of security. If they die in their sleep, they do not fall, they remain hanging. Visualize this locking in to relaxation. Imagine that the heavier you feel, the more secure you become. You do not need to hold on to your sleep. You only need to let gravity do the work, locking you safely into a state of rest that requires no effort to maintain. Leaving the cave and travelling across the ocean to the eucalyptus forests of eastern Australia, we find another champion of sleep wedged into the fork of a tree. The koala is famous for sleeping up to 20 hours a day. We often think of them as lazy, or perhaps drunk on the leaves, but their sleep is a brilliant biological strategy. The eucalyptus leaves that make up their entire diet are tough, fibrous, and full of toxic compounds and low in nutrition. To digest them, the koala has a specialized digestive organ called a cecum, which is 6 feet long. But breaking down these toxins requires a massive amount of metabolic energy, so the koala shuts down everything else. They sleep not because they are tired, but to allow their bodies to focus entirely on processing their food. They wedge their furry bodies into the crook of a branch, cushioned by their dense woolly fur, and drift away. It is a productive sleep. While they dream, their body is turning poison into fuel. Visualize yourself wedged comfortably into a safe, supportive space, just like the koala. Know that your sleep is doing work. It is filtering out the toxins of stress and fatigue, processing the day, and turning it into nourishment for tomorrow. As the koala sleeps, the forest around it breathes. The eucalyptus trees are not just passive scenery, they are actively changing the atmosphere. These trees release a fine mist of volatile organic oils into the air. When the hot sun hits this mist, it scatters the light. Specifically, the oil droplets disperse the shorter wavelengths of light, the blue and indigo part of the spectrum, more than the red. This creates a permanent visible blue haze that hangs over the forest, giving the Blue Mountains their name. Imagine looking out over a valley filled with these trees. The air itself seems to be coloured a soft, dreamlike indigo. It smells sharp and clean, like menthol and pine, a scent that opens the lungs and clears the head. This blue haze acts like a natural filter, softening the harshness of the sunlight, turning the landscape into a watercolour painting. Breathe in that imaginary cool blue air. Feel it opening your airways, cooling your throat, and filling your mind with the colour of deep relaxation. Flowing through these blue forests are freshwater creeks that lead to muddy pools. Here, diving with a splash, is one of the strangest and most specialised creatures on Earth, the platypus. When it dives to hunt, it closes its eyes. It closes its ears. It holds its breath. It cuts off all the standard senses. So how does it find its way? The skin of its soft, rubbery bill is covered in thousands of receptors that can detect the faint electric fields generated by the muscle contractions of shrimp and worms hidden in the mud. It sweeps its bill back and forth like a metal detector, a movement known as saccades. It is seeing with electricity. It finds life in the dark by sensing the spark of life in others. Visualize the platypus moving through the dark, murky water. It is completely isolated from sight and sound, yet it is perfectly aware. It moves with confidence in the dark. It reminds us that we can close our eyes and ears to the world and still navigate. We can trust our inner senses, our intuition, to find what we need in the deep, quiet waters of sleep. On the banks of the creek, digging into the side of a hill, is the wombat. While many animals dig holes, the wombat builds a fortress. Their burrows can be up to 100 feet long, with multiple chambers, sleeping rooms and tunnels. But the true genius of the burrow is its climate control. Regardless of the scorching heat of the Australian summer or the frost of the winter, the temperature inside the deep burrow remains a constant, comfortable mildness. It is a stable sanctuary. The wombat retreats into this tunnel to escape the extremes of the surface world. Visualize crawling into this earthen home. The walls are smooth, packed soil, cool to the touch. The noise of the wind and the world is instantly cut off. It is dark, quiet, and perfectly temperature controlled. Imagine that your bed is this burrow. You have crawled deep inside, far away from the fluctuations of the day. Here, in the center of the earth, the weather is always perfect for sleep. You're protected by tons of soil, safe in the cool, quiet dark. Sharing this landscape is a creature that carries its protection on its back, the echidna. Covered in sharp spines, this monotreme moves slowly and deliberately. When it feels threatened or simply wants to rest, it has a unique defense mechanism. It does not run, it digs straight down. Using its powerful claws, the echidna sinks vertically into the earth, disappearing until only a shield of spikes is visible on the surface. It becomes a fortress of one. But underneath those spikes, tucked safely against its warm belly and a temporary pouch, might be a baby, known as a puggle. The puggle is smooth and hairless, living in the softest, safest place imaginable, protected by the armor of the mother above. Visualize that sensation of being tucked away. You have a shield around you, your home, your blanket, your safety. Nothing can get through. Inside that armor you are soft, warm, and held like the puggle, indifferent to the world outside, focused only on the warmth of the pouch. In the arid plains beyond the forest, the red kangaroo demonstrates a biological miracle of patience known as embryonic diapause. In the harsh outback, rain is unpredictable. If a mother kangaroo has a baby in her pouch, but becomes pregnant again while a drought is raging, her body knows that the new baby would not survive, so she pauses the pregnancy. The embryo, consisting of only about 100 cells, stops growing. It enters a state of suspended animation. It does not die, it simply waits. It waits for the older sibling to leave the pouch, or for the rain to return and the grass to grow. It can wait for months. This is the ultimate trust in timing. The body knows that now is not the moment to push forward, but to hold still. It preserves potential until the conditions are right. Think of your own ideas, your plans, or your worries. You can put them into diapause. You do not need to birth them right now. You can press the pause button. Let them stay small and suspended. They will be there when the rain comes. For now, you can rest, knowing that nature knows exactly when to wake things up, and that time is not now. Now is the time for stasis, for suspension, and for sleep. As the kangaroo mother pauses the very creation of life, waiting for the perfect moment in the timeline of the earth, we realize that this patience is not just a biological trick. It is a fundamental law of the cosmos. Everything we have seen, from the slow-growing lichen to the ancient shark, from the drifting continent to the sleeping bear, is a testament to the idea that you are made of time. And this brings us to the final, most intimate secret of all. It is the story of what you are actually made of. Look at your hand as it rests on the bedsheets. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the mattress. You often think of yourself as something new, a being that began when you were born. But the truth is infinitely older and more majestic. Every atom in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron colouring your blood, the carbon in your genes, and the nitrogen in your brain, was not created here on Earth. In the beginning of the universe, there was only hydrogen and helium, simple and light. To create the complexity of you, the universe needed a crucible. It needed heat and pressure beyond imagination. So, it built stars. For billions of years, these ancient stars burned, crushing atoms together in their fiery hearts, acting as cosmic alchemists. They forged the heavy elements necessary for life. And then, In their final spectacular moments, they exploded as supernovae. These explosions scattered their enriched guts across the galaxy, massive clouds of dust and gas that drifted for eons. Eventually, gravity pulled that dust together to form a new star, our sun, and a blue planet, our Earth. And from that ancient recycled dust, life arose. And from that life came you. This means that you're not merely living in the universe, you are the universe. You're a collection of stardust that has come together for a brief, beautiful moment to experience consciousness. You are the mechanism by which the universe thinks, feels, and dreams. The iron that anchors you to the earth is the same iron that once lived in the heart of a dying star. You're as old as the light. You're as vast as the sky. You are not separate from the nature we have explored tonight. You are the crescendo of it. You are the 101st wonder, the watcher who gives meaning to the rest. And now, the journey is complete. The stars that made you are watching over you through the window. The earth that supports you is holding you steady. The ocean of air around you is breathing in time with your chest. There is nothing left to learn tonight. There is nothing left to see. The book of the world is gently closing, its pages filled with the quiet miracles we have witnessed together. Visualize all these images we've collected: the glowing waves, the silent owl, the drifting continents, the sleeping forests, slowly fading into a soft, comfortable mist. They are receding into the back of your mind, becoming the landscape of your dreams. They are no longer facts to be remembered. They are simply a soft, heavy blanket of knowledge that keeps you warm. Your body is heavy. Your mind is empty. The river of words is slowing down, widening as it reaches the vast, silent ocean of sleep. The current is almost gone. The water is still. You're drifting on a sea of pure peace, under a sky of velvet darkness. There is only the slow rise and fall of the tide, in and out, in and out. The world has turned its back to the sun to give you this shadow. The universe has conspired across billions of years to bring you to this moment of rest. You are safe. You are held. You are home. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.